And then they love tossing around accusations, accusing people of being funded by Big Pharma. I mean, literally, when I ran for Congress, right, I received heat from all these leftist publications because I got COVID really bad. And I was on the campaign trail in 2020, refusing to wear a mask, I think I wore a mask for like, the first week, when they said, 15 days to slow the spread. And then afterwards I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And then you had to like literally wear a mask to go inside Publix to get groceries. So I think I did that too. And then I immediately took it off and I got really bad asthma as a result of getting COVID. But I was trashed. And they said that we hope that Laura Loomer dies. And there was a post in the Daily Mail saying that I was on my deathbed because I got COVID and I was telling people to not take the vaccine. And so for Callie to go online today and falsely accuse me of all people of being paid off by Big Pharma, it's just so crazy. And it's totally dishonest that people can't handle legitimate criticisms about their background. So they start falsely accusing people of working against Donald Trump when I'm like arguably Donald Trump's biggest advocate, and accusing people like me of being paid off by Big Pharma, accusing you of being jealous, right? I saw a lot of people like that today saying that you're jealous. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think that it's concerning that somebody who took the vaccine was nominated to be U.S. Surgeon General?
Yeah, I mean, I can forgive her for getting the COVID shot, I guess. I mean, the government spent $11.5 billion brainwashing the public. And yeah, she's a doctor. She should have known better. But, she could go back. I mean, most people regret getting the COVID shots. And it's just very suspicious that she will not say anything. So yeah, it's problematic on many levels, as you've noted. There's so many great candidates out there. And yeah, I'm not jealous because I have absolutely no desire to be Surgeon General or even get near Washington, D.C. But there are, I was with Kelly Victory last weekend at a conference, and I know her pretty well. I see her at this conference every year, and she's close friends with Kennedy. They've known each other 30 years. And she told us sort of, under the table, Kennedy called me last week and said, send us your resume for the third time, because they vetted her before, they'd interviewed her before for the Surgeon General, had been back and forth. They said, okay, Jeanette Neshawat is out and you're going to be it. And so we were all sort of celebrating, saying, great, because, Kelly is very well credentialed and she's very comfortable in the media. And, she's also, unfortunately, she's been outspoken about the COVID shots. And I honestly think that's what killed it. But we were all under the impression that weekend that Kelly Victory was going to be announced as Surgeon General this week. So it was quite the surprise when that didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's kind of shocking, and I think it's really disturbing that nobody decided to do any background information. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can actually be suspended from a residency program if you get caught using recreational drugs, and you can have your license revoked as a physician if you're caught using recreational drugs or have drugs in your system. I'm not just talking about like medication prescriptions. I'm talking about hardcore controlled substances if you were to be randomly drug tested, correct?
Well, it's against the law. So yes, I don't know specifics on what the punishments are, but yeah, it's against the law. And certainly our next Surgeon General shouldn't be promoting the use of recreational drugs, especially now with the opioid crisis.
Yeah, it's just like really contrary and conflicting messaging. I mean, we just saw an announcement from Attorney General Pam Bondi about a massive seizure of fentanyl and psilocybin, the largest seizure of psilocybin and fentanyl in U.S. history the other day. And then the same day that they announced the seizure of fentanyl and psilocybin, they appoint a woman, Casey Means, to be Surgeon General, when I believe we have the screenshots here. I posted this on my X account if we can get these pulled up. She's talking about using shrooms, which is psilocybin. She calls it plant medicine instead of actually, calling it what it is, a controlled substance, which is illegal. And I think it's really concerning because, again, how are medical professionals supposed to respect, right, the office of the Surgeon General when, we have that's a different one. Let's get the other one up on the screen. Different tweet. When you have a Surgeon General who is openly talking about recreational drug use, and her brother admitted to the Wall Street Journal in an article that his entire entrepreneurial career involving medicine started with a psychedelic trip. Can we get these screenshots up on the screen, please? So I want to show everybody these screenshots, but thoughts on that? Because I also know that you have to be able to pass a drug test to work in the White House. And now we have Callie Means, who's openly talking about his psychedelic trips on shrooms and psilocybin, working as a official advisor in the Trump White House.
Yeah, it's concerning, to say the least. It's just not sort of the role model you want to present to the American public, I would say. It's pretty cut and dry, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. While we're looking for these graphics and getting them pulled up on the screen, I want to go ahead and play this video clip of you confronting. Oh, here we go. Let's scroll down. Let's just go ahead and play the clip. Let's just go ahead and play the clip of you confronting Callie, because they don't have the right tweet up. Let's go ahead and play the clip. Oh, here we go. Let's get it up. Scroll down. So he attacked me today. You can scroll down and see what he said. Just received information that Laura Loomer is taking money from the industry to scuttle President Trump's agenda. Laura Loomer, if that's incorrect, sue me and let's do discovery. So, he wants to be a clout chaser and use my name. I'm in the media every day. Obviously, I'm in the news a lot lately because President Trump has, acted on my recommendations, trying to be a clout chaser, trying to say, oh, sue me, let's go to discovery. When, look, it's a very provocative thing, in my opinion, for him to falsely accuse me without any evidence of taking money from Big Pharma. And you can go to my tweet and what I said, and, we'll just read it live on air. Scroll up. I said, Callie, you're so full of shit. You are a PR spin master. Funny how you never want to talk about your career in PR and crisis management. So he had a PR company, and he works with a PR company, and he does crisis management. So he's very capable of spinning up these narratives. Let's get it back on the screen. And, he doesn't disclose his own background. And so he accuses me of taking money, but then he's lying about the real reason why his sister didn't finish residency, as we just discussed. And yes, we went over this, but I want to show the screenshots to everybody so people don't think that this is just a gossip hour with you. Let's go through each of these screenshots really quick. Trump's pick for Surgeon General quit medical residency due to stress, former department chair says. Callie's all over social media saying that she quit because she's so brave and she stood up to the medical establishment and, she's such a hero. Well, that's not true, right? So there's lie number one. Let's go through the next screenshot. You see here, Dr. Paul Flint, a former chair at Oregon Health and Science University, said Means resigned from the residency because of anxiety. So as you said earlier, her own colleagues are calling her out because of her lies about her own background and her qualifications. That's one of the reasons why Jeanette Nishwat had her nomination pulled, is because she was fibbing on her qualifications and her records and her credentials, saying that she went to an American medical school when she actually went to a medical school in the Caribbean, right? So that's lie number two. Next. Now, here's a screenshot from her newsletter, right? She's talking about things she did when she wanted to find love. She prayed to photos of her ancestors, talking about manifestations and mantras. Okay, whatever. She talked to a spiritual medium. Now, President Trump worked extremely hard to get the evangelical Christian vote. And I just want to know, what kind of message is this sending to evangelical Christians when, you have a woman who's been nominated to be Surgeon General talking about stirring up demons and spirits by speaking to a spiritual medium? A lot of Christians would call that witchcraft and voodoo. Okay. A lot of people have a serious issue with communicating with spirits and talking to the dead through spiritual mediums. Full moon ceremonies, that's very strange. Talking to trees. She says she literally would talk to the trees. kind of like schizophrenic behavior, talking about plant medicine experiments, AKA doing shrooms with trusted guides. I mean, it sounds like, an ayahuasca trip where you go and you sit in the middle of a jungle and they have these spiritual guides that give you these illicit drugs. And then you basically sweat and you trip. And then you sit in this kumbaya circle and talk about all your hippie dreams. And then she puts a mushroom at the end. So she's obviously talking about shrooms because she doesn't want to say psilocybin because that would implicate herself in a crime since psilocybin is an illegal controlled substance. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it would not be hard to find a much more qualified candidate that doesn't have things like that all over the internet. So yes, she wasn't vetted. It was a failure in really doing their homework.
So would you agree with my assessment that there is a vetting crisis at the White House?
100%.
And if President Trump were to be watching this episode right now or were to receive a copy of this clip, what would your message be to President Trump as it relates to the guidance that Bobby Kennedy gave him as it relates to his nomination of Casey Means?
There are just a slew of better people ready and waiting who have proved themselves during the pandemic. They spoke up when it was hard to do so at great personal risk. They have high integrity. They are not talking about doing recreational drugs on the internet. They are financially agnostic. I can name 5 of them off the top of my head. So it wouldn't be that hard to find a better person.
Her brother has been described as a medical entrepreneur. Do you think that there's a conflict of interest that exists with having these siblings working together in such close proximity in official administration jobs when he himself, has various companies, including TrueMed? This is a company that he co-founded. And then his wife apparently lived in China for several months where she was trying to raise money and get investments from Chinese individuals for her wedding dress company. Do you think that this is, a big red flag and another vetting, just a vetting oversight, given the fact that we are still reeling from the implications of the China virus and the way that China devastated our country so much during this scam-demic, as I like to call it? I just find it to be a massive conflict of interest that kind of degrades the office of the U.S. Surgeon General. You have a woman whose brother is a medical tech entrepreneur making millions of dollars off of his investments and his companies in the medical field. I mean, don't you feel that this opens up the potential for exploitation in the way that he could, present himself or leverage his relationship with his sister, who is set to be the U.S. Surgeon General?
Yeah, so he has a company called TrueMed, and what that does is they have products on their website that you can buy using HSA money. So that's pre-tax money. You get a tax break. And normally that kind of money goes towards, medications, surgery, very cut and dry medical care. But these products are, it's a little sketchy. Like they have a bed on there called 8 Sleep, which if you really dig into this bed, it's a very expensive bed, $4,000. There's no scientific data showing that it improves any kind of sleep outcomes or sleep health. Yet, you can use the U.S. taxpayer money to buy, to leverage to buy that off of his website. So expanding those HSA accounts is a huge windfall for Cali. And yeah, it's not big pharma, but can you imagine if, somebody connected with Pfizer was in Cali's position right now? Can you imagine the uproar that people would have? So it is a definite conflict of interest for him. And he's a special government employee. So he is in a position now. And then of course, with his sister becoming Surgeon General, same thing. It's vitally important after everything that happened during the pandemic that we don't make the same mistakes that we have continued to make if we have any hope of restoring trust.
Yeah, and I think that it opens the door for potential tax fraud, and it's going to create scandals for the Trump administration because, could you imagine the Surgeon General advocating for her brother's company and saying, oh, I encourage all of you to go get this mattress or start hawking products that her brother has affiliations with on his website? I mean, as you said before, there would be so much outrage if people from Pfizer were in this position or Big Pharma. We'd be hearing all this public outcry about the Big Pharma conflicts of interest, but this is just as much of a conflict of interest. And the fact that they didn't tell the president any of this, I was told that Donald Trump didn't know any of this, that the president was not made aware of any of these facts, and Bobby Kennedy did not tell Donald Trump any of this information as it relates to the conflict of interest. And it's almost like Bobby Kennedy is trying to set Trump up for a scandal, right? I mean, we just saw this announcement the other day of a massive $20 million, and we can pull this up too, a $20 million advertisement campaign that the HHS department is going to be carrying out for the sake of commercials. Just type in, I think it's HHS $20 million Kennedy. Just type that in Google and see what pops up. There's an article I saw. And it's almost like it's a shadow presidential campaign ahead of 2028. You see that all the people who, here we go. Kennedy planning $20 million HHS Take Back Your Health campaign. Mm-hmm. So it's a 4-year initiative. And what this really is it's like a shadow presidential campaign on taxpayer money for $20 million so that he can be on TV and presenting himself as some kind of a hero on the expense of the taxpayers here, while his entire staff at HHS are all of his former campaign employees, including Stephanie Spear, an avowed Marxist and climate change radical who founded a group called EcoWatch that is still using their X account to this day to trash President Trump. So I don't even think President Trump is aware of the fact that Kennedy is trying to exploit and abuse taxpayer money in his position as HHS secretary to literally launch a shadow presidential campaign with $20 million of taxpayer money.
Well, even if it's not that agenda, I don't want the government. The government needs to just go away and stop telling everybody how to be healthy. And just, I think everybody's a little traumatized after COVID with all the messaging from the federal government. I mean, I miss the good old days when I didn't really know anything about the FDA or CDC, and they just kind of kept to themselves. So it's really discouraging to see that $20 million of more propaganda is going out with this new initiative.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is it's propaganda. I know we said we were going to play this clip, so I want to go ahead and play this clip so that people can see, where you're coming from as a medical professional, as a real doctor, a real licensed doctor, and your direct confrontation with Callie, means the brother of Casey, means in a discussion about taking these vaccines off the market. And I want to remind everybody as you're watching this clip that Callie Means has been brought into the White House, the Trump administration, as a special government employee to be a health advisor to Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy.
Personally, do you feel like the COVID shot should be pulled off the market? Yes or no?
I'll give you my personal opinion. I think there should be absolutely no mandates.
So yes,
hold on.
Okay.
I think that we have an opportunity the next year to truly reset science. This is what I feel. And we have an opportunity to have Jay Bhattacharya, who's a close friend, who I, strongly push to be at the NIH, to call everyone together, review the science, have truth and reconciliation, bring that out to people, and have a process for that.
Okay, so
I think as a general, Jack.
So the answer is no. The answer is no.
Right.
That is a policy position that I'm calling for the COVID shots to be immediately pulled from the market.
No, you're not answering the question. You're doing exactly what your training has told you to do.
Hold on, Jack.
That's the reason we're sitting here.
Jack. I am saying that as a policy position, I think that we should have absolute data transparency, no mandates.
We have too much data.
Okay,
Danny just had Kevin McKiernan on the damn podcast. Let me talk.
Jack.
You let me talk now.
Hold on.
Let me talk.
Let me ask you a question. And this is not like a debate. I don't see this as a debate. I actually legitimately...
I don't think it's a debate either.
Hold on, Jack, why are you so angry?
Because I don't trust you.
Okay.
I think you're full of shit. And Mary just uncovered why you're full of shit. Because you can't say yes or no. Let me just tell you something, Callie. When you say to the American public that my children can't have the shot, so we can't say anything for anybody else, to me, that's incongruent.
So you would argue that Trump and Biden should come out, Trump and RFK should come out with an immediate ban of the COVID shot today?
Absolutely. It should have been done a long time ago.
My point
is that your recommendation?
It should have happened with Operation Warp Speed.
It should have happened in the first month.
Correct.
I think as a policy process, we need to have truth and reconciliation.
Let's talk about the policy process of the swine flu when we had 70 vaccine-injured kids, and we pulled it off the market.
Hold on. What is the debate? I'm saying there should be an immediate review of the data.
That's not the answer.
I'm giving my answer.
Yeah,
Jack.
but that's not the answer.
Jack,
why do you think he just wouldn't answer the question? I mean, it is important to point out the fact that he is trained in PR. I believe he worked for a company called Mercury, and he is trained in crisis PR management. And there are people who have worked for Mercury who are now working in the White House itself. So, I don't know if that's how he was able to get into the White House, or, whether his affiliations with Mercury and people in the White House who also have affiliations with Mercury is how he was able to get into the White House. But he is a trained PR crisis management expert. And so I think it's really important that people understand this when they listen to the way that he dodges questions and the way that he's, you don't see Casey responding to any of these attacks on her publicly. She's having her brother speak for her. And so my question is has Casey hired her brother, right? I've been told by people that he has been hired to do her PR and her crisis management. I've been told that some of these social media influencers who seem to have all these clips ready to go in support of her as soon as it was announced that she was going to be the Surgeon General are getting paid to promote her and to gaslight people into believing that she is worthy of being confirmed in front of the U.S. Senate. Thoughts on any of that? Have you heard any of that? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, and he's very skilled at dodging questions. I mean, that wasn't the first conversation or the last conversation I've had with Callie. I've had several phone conversations. There have been text messages. He will not go on record to state the COVID shot should be pulled off the market, even though he's not willing to get them. He's not going to give them to his kid. He doesn't want his dad to get them. He's very skilled at just dodging that question. And so, yeah, that was my first suspicion about him. Because he parachuted in. Their book became a bestseller in May of 2024. So just a year ago, right? They had this best-selling book from out of nowhere. And then 3 months later, Kennedy drops out and joins forces with Trump. And Callie is the one that orchestrated that move. And it all happened so fast. The timing and the intensity just didn't make sense. So I have said that to him that, I support their message. I think we need clean food and we need to, promote, help with obesity but they don't agree with our message.
Right.
And that's been the problem all along.
Yeah. And, I've gotten some flack. Like some people have said, oh, why are you having Dr. Bowden come on your show? She's been critical of Trump. Because look, at the end of the day, the position of Surgeon General is supposed to be somebody who can serve as an authority in medicine, as a spokesperson for the medical professionals in our country and also just people in America looking for public health guidance. And so I've had conversations with people who have been critical of President Trump, people who didn't vote for President Trump, and people who are doctors who, are diehard MAGA loyalists, people who are friends with the president, some people who are members of his own golf clubs. And what's interesting is regardless of the ideological differences with all of these people, right? Some of them are on different levels of the spectrum and where they support Donald Trump. They all came to the same conclusion, which is hard to find amongst people who vary in their support for President Trump. And that's that she is not qualified, right? Forget about whether or not she's a never Trumper or a Trump loyalist. Let's just look at her own background and her own qualifications. And, I'm not one of these people that is going to say that oh, anti-vaxxers are conspiracy theorists, or, oh, we need to police online information about vaccines, like Jeanette Neuschwat said, where she was congratulating the social media companies for banning people. But I do think that there does need to be a level of decorum and actual respect for real science. I'm not talking about big pharma and forcing people to take vaccines or, telling people not to look at holistic medicine. I'm talking about having respect for medical professionals as a whole and encouraging people to get into medicine, because we already have to import doctors. I don't think a lot of people understand this. We are importing surgeons from other countries around the world because we have a shortage of specialists in our country. I'm sure you're aware of that. A lot of people watching probably are not aware of that. There are people in this country who have to travel abroad to get medical care in some instances because they don't have enough specialists in certain areas of medicine in our country. Because look, Obama destroyed the medical profession with Obamacare. And now you have these like new wave of rogue, self-appointed medical experts who are pushing people away from wanting to be doctors because they're demonizing people for practicing real medicine. And what's going to happen in our country as it relates to public health if you have all these people saying, don't take antibiotics, go take some shrooms, right? I am a critic of vaccines, right? I have called myself an anti-vaxxer. I am not on Big Pharma's payroll. I believe vaccines give children autism, right? I am in favor of people looking at holistic measures to treat themselves. But you cannot say that we are not to use any medicine or any type of pharmaceuticals whatsoever to treat people, and that the entire medical industry is completely corrupt and that every doctor is evil. I mean, I'm really worried about what it's going to mean for the future of medicine in our country if we have some quack like Casey Means as the U.S. Surgeon General.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and, in terms of Trump, I voted for him every time. I support Trump. This has never been, from the start, I'm like, this is not about politics. This is cut and dry about healthcare, right?
Right, exactly.
And, right, so, when I speak out about the COVID shots, Trump gets in that conversation. But
look, I'm a Trump loyalist. I'm a Trump loyalist too. And the reality is that the biggest criticism that Trump received, even during his own reelection campaign, is when he was talking about the jabs. And I don't know why. Eventually his advisors had enough common sense to tell him to stop talking about it. But that would be my only criticism. But I will say Donald Trump never mandated the vaccines. And so while he may feel a sense of accomplishment with Operation Warp Speed, I personally don't agree with that. I never took the vaccine. I think that President Trump was put in a very screwed up position. We had a bioweapon unleashed on our country by China, funded by our own government. And, you had Fauci and Birx giving President Trump false information, trying to derail his reelection efforts. And you had people, Donald Trump's not a doctor. He's not a scientist, right? He's hoping that his advisors and his staff are going to provide him with adequate information. And so, I don't think that Trump is to blame for all of this. I think that after the fact, where President Trump was, doing interviews talking about how amazing the jab was, I think there has to be some personal accountability for the words that came out of his mouth. And he corrected the course and he stopped talking about the COVID jabs. You don't hear him mention that anymore. But I think that Donald Trump tried to do the best that he could do given the circumstances. And I do believe that he was sabotaged. I mean, we know that he was sabotaged because there are a lot of doctors who have since come out and spoken about how President Trump was intentionally given false information to derail his presidency.
Well, I spoke to somebody today who I probably shouldn't name his name, but he was a special government employee during Operation Warp Speed. And he basically said, Pfizer was limiting the data that they were giving them. So, Pfizer should be on the hook for most of this, if not all, and Moderna. And there is a lawsuit going on right now. Brooke Jackson, whistleblower for Pfizer, who has been, just on this 5-year mission to sue Pfizer, and the DOJ is preventing them. The DOJ is intervening, and they're not letting this case go forward. So, if anybody in the Trump administration is listening to this, if you could just let this play out in the courts, then let the chips fall where they may. But this could resolve the issue, get this information out, let it go through the court system. And, if Pfizer did something wrong, then we need to know about it.
Absolutely. I know you have some Substack writings that you've published on this matter. I want to get those up on the screen and encourage everybody to read your Substack because, obviously we have a limited time tonight and we could be on this podcast for hours talking about all of your incredible findings and all of your great research and all of your reports. But I do want to direct people to your Substack, and you have an article that you published in December titled "Is Maha?" Let's cut out. Get that out of the screen. Is Maha a misdirection strategy? So I think that everybody should read this article on your Substack. It's drbowden.substack. And I think it raises a really good point and a question that I've asked too. Is Maha a subversive movement? Is it a misdirection strategy? And so if you want to learn more about this and you are starting to notice all of these patterns within Maha and these subversive creatures who are trying to undermine Trump and popping out of nowhere and shape-shifting to gain political power, I encourage you all to go to Dr. Bowden's Substack. Let's get that pulled up on the screen again so people can read it full screen. And you have another article too. Let's go ahead and get the other piece pulled up that people should read. And then I want to give you a few moments to, any last comments or words about this. Let's see. The truth about TrueMed. So this is another article that you wrote. Conflicts of interest within Maha. Some of what we spoke about tonight regarding, TrueMed, the company that was co-founded by Callie Means, who is the brother of the new Trump-appointed Surgeon General nominee. And you can read this Substack. I encourage all of you to read it and check it out because this isn't about jealousy. This isn't about, whatever it is all these Maha people online are trying to say this is about protecting Donald Trump from scandals, preserving the integrity of the medical field, and also being honest with the American people about real conflicts of interest and whether or not people are truly qualified or whether or not they're trying to self-enrich themselves. Comments, thoughts?
Yeah, the pandemic, it directly impacted every single American. And, the pandemic is over, but mRNA shots, they're still around. Like I said, all babies are expected to get 3 mRNA shots by the time they're 9 months old. There are 500 mRNA products in the pipeline. So, you may not be worried about COVID, nor should you be, but there's still a lot of mess that needs to be cleaned up. We need transparency. We need accountability. We need to get these shots pulled off the market, and we need good people in position. And so far, everybody up there, everybody's staying silent on the elephant in the room. And that is highly problematic, and it's going to do nothing to restore trust.
Absolutely. If you could, provide a list of, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 people who you think could be different alternatives for the position of Surgeon General, who would they be? Because I do think that there are a lot of people from the Trump administration who watch my show, President Trump included. And I'm not here to promote any one person over another. I'm not a doctor. I think that there needs to be a panel of doctors to have a discussion and advise the president on selecting a new candidate for Surgeon General. I don't think that Bobby Kennedy should be the one to be telling President Trump who the Surgeon General pick should be. I think that it should be a group of people who didn't work on either campaign, independent health advisors, who come from all different types of backgrounds so that they can come up with a very qualified Surgeon General. Do you have any suggestions for people who the Trump administration should reach out to or potentially look at as a replacement?
Well, I think they should heavily consider Kelly Victory, and she would be wonderful. There's, Joseph Ladapo would be wonderful, the Surgeon General of Florida. Dr. Kirk Milhone, who you may not know, but he's just a wonderful man. He's a pediatric cardiologist. He does missionary work. He's military. Dr. Scott Jensen, he ran for governor of Minnesota. He's just salt of the earth guy, very well spoken, very trustworthy. And then Peter McCullough, who has been outspoken from the start, high integrity, also very media savvy.
Yeah, I almost think that we need somebody who doesn't want to be a celebrity, because it seems like the Trump administration right now is being filled with so many people that it's like jockey for press. And a lot of people wonder if the people in the Trump administration, a lot of these appointees are more focused on their positions helping Trump or becoming the next Fox News guest host, right, for a primetime slot. So I would almost prefer that we have a surgeon general who isn't focused on, being a celebrity or a media star, because it just seems like, this lady, Casey, promotes herself as a social media influencer with an MD at her name, even though she doesn't have, an active medical license. So I just kind of wonder if a lot of these people want the position so that they can actually, provide a service to the president and fulfill his agenda, or if they can become social media stars and, like I said, enrich their families, sell their books, sell their products, whatever. It just doesn't really sit right.
Well, I think you can have style and substance. Right now, we're just going with style, but we can have a combination very easily.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's the thing is, like, I want there to be style and substance. But I think that one of the biggest criticisms of some of the people who are currently in the Trump administration is that, there's more focus on style as opposed to substance.
Exactly.
I mean, that's one of the biggest criticisms of Pam Bondi right now, right? So any last thoughts, any last comments, anything that you want the viewers listening to think about, or any upcoming Substack articles?
Well, I just think everybody needs to challenge these people that work for us, that we elected. And don't let them get away with being silent. Silence is compliance, and it's unethical. If you are in a position of power and you are aware of the dangers of these shots and you're letting it happen. So I would encourage everybody to just keep speaking out.
Do you have any upcoming Substack pieces coming out, or anything that you're specifically working on?
I'm working on a book, but other than that, no.
Oh, great. Well, we'll have to have you back on to talk about that when it comes out. Dr. Bowden, I want to thank you so much for spending your Friday evening talking with us and everything that you're doing to speak truth to power. I would encourage everybody to follow your X account, where you're dropping receipts and bombshells and holding people accountable every single day. I find your posts to be very insightful, and I just really appreciate you taking so much time on a Friday evening to inform people, concerned citizens of this country, about what appears to be a serious vetting crisis in the Trump administration. So where do people follow you if they want to read your Substack or view your tweets?
It's MD Breathe is my handle for both Twitter and Substack.
Wonderful. Well, Dr. Bowden, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. A lot of receipts there, you guys. A lot of receipts. I would encourage you to look at her Twitter account, look at her Substack, and look at some of the podcasts that she's done. I think that there's a lot of very damning information. And this is a woman who herself said why would she be jealous? She doesn't want to be Surgeon General. It's not like she's in competition with Casey Means. And I had her on tonight, and there's a lot of people I've spoken to across varying, degrees of the political spectrum. Some people like Trump. Some people don't like Trump. Some people are super Trump fans. Some people hate Trump. And I've talked to all of them, people in the medical profession who I know. I'm like, what do you think about this? And it's funny that because they all came to the same conclusion. And they said this woman is not qualified, Casey Means, to be the U.S. Surgeon General. So it's not too often that you have people on such polarizing sides of, the political spectrum coming together to the same conclusion. So hopefully this information can make it to Donald Trump. I find it to be very alarming that there are people who work for the president who block this information, and then they try to make it seem like I'm a problem. I mean, every day. And, after I bring on my next guest, I'm going to have an entire segment dedicated to Loomer derangement syndrome, just so that you can see the way that they viciously attack me for simply trying to do the right thing. I'm just trying to, use my platform and my voice to inform the American people and make sure that the best people surround Donald Trump. I'm not trying to be vindictive or malicious. I want what's best for America. I want what's best for the American people. And I want to protect Donald Trump so that his administration is not sabotaged by people who don't have his best interest. And I really just have a lot of questions about some of the people in the administration. And I think that I deserve answers for these questions. And I believe that I speak for a large population of the MAGA movement and people who voted to have President Trump represent them. So the attacks are just out of control, but I can handle it. I'm a big girl. I just find it to be really interesting how they're dedicating so much time on the mainstream media to smearing me for simply providing recommendations with receipts, with documentation. I'm not on Big Pharma's payroll. It's just factual information that I'm presenting. People can make up their own minds. Clearly, it's damning. Before I bring on my next guest, and we have an exclusive announcement tonight, exclusive video release, never before seen footage before that relates to our previous segments on the show about animal testing and animal rescue. I want to take a moment to thank the second sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that is Grassi. Sip on the power of nature with Grassi, the organic wellness water that does more than just hydrates. This small business was founded on a mission to keep jobs here at home in America, especially in rural communities. Grassi is committed to investing in American manufacturing instead of sending production overseas. Made and sourced in the United States of America, each bottle of Grassi is packed with detoxifying barley grass juice powder plus 100% of your daily vitamins C, D, and zinc, giving you and your body the clean energy and immune boost that you need. It's USDA certified, organic, plant-based, vegan, and it's low in sugar, making it perfect for athletes, families, and anybody who wants to stay healthy on the go. And I figured that we have a lot to talk about tonight as it relates to wellness and health and medicine here in America. And so speaking of wellness, Wellness Magazine even said that Grassi is not just a beverage, but a revolution in a bottle. Head on over to Grassi.com and use code Laura20 to save 20% off on your entire purchase all month long. When you sip on Grassi, you're not just nourishing yourself, but you're also supporting American manufacturing and small businesses here in America. You're supporting workers and local communities all across our country. And if there's one thing that you know about me, I will always stand with American workers and American businesses. So again, head on over to Grassi.com. That's Graasi.com. Use code Laura20. We've had the founder of Grassi on the program before to talk about the benefits of this drink. Low in sugar, organic, has your daily dose of vitamins all packed into one bottle. I'm not really a fan of soda. Sometimes drink diet soda, but you see a lot of parents give their kids soda, right? And they're always giving their kids soda in their lunch boxes. That's not healthy for your kids. Children are going to get diabetes. And I think that there's a healthier alternative out there. And you see that there's a lot of controversy surrounding health drinks, right? They say that they're health drinks, but there's tons of sugar, even apple juice. And a lot of these juice products that are billed as being healthy for your kids are not healthy. And this isn't a drink just for children. It's a drink for everybody. And what I like about it is that, it's hydrating and the flavor isn't too severe. It just has like a very light flavor to it. Citrus mint, cucumber, lime, lemongrass, ginger, but it is a legitimate healthy alternative. And like I said, adults can drink it, children can drink it, certified organic, and you're getting your daily dose of vitamins when you drink this beverage. And as I said before, I used to get vitamin therapy all the time. I would spend all this money on vitamin IVs because I'm deficient. I have a vitamin D deficiency and a little bit of a vitamin B deficiency. So I feel tired some of the times, but got to push through it, right? And I would get these vitamin injections because I just felt a lot better. And I started drinking Grassi and I get my vitamin B, I get my vitamin D and zinc, and I really do feel healthier. And I feel like I have more energy and I don't need to go get the vitamin infusions as much. So I would definitely recommend it. Check it out. And again, when you buy from Grassi, you're not just optimizing your overall health, but you're also supporting the production here at Loomer Unleashed. So thank you to the good folks over at Grassi for sponsoring Loomer Unleashed. All righty. Moving on now. You've seen the developments over the last few weeks, really over the last month, since I first invited Justin Goodman, the Senior Vice President of the White Coat Waste Project, to come on my program, Loomer Unleashed, to break stories with me regarding the extension of funding of animal testing under the current Trump administration with our taxpayer money. We had Justin on the program on tax day to discuss how $20 billion of your tax money every single year is going towards funding cruel and abusive animal testing experiments in laboratories, not just here, but also abroad in places like China. We had some developments this week with President Trump signing an executive order in the Oval Office with the NIH director, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., banning gain of function, right? Banning the funding of gain of function abroad. And what's interesting is that this announcement to stop funding of gain of function, which is what led to the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns and, killed 1.2 million American citizens, right? Thanks to China. What a lot of people don't know is that animals supplied by the United States of America, experiments funded by U.S. taxpayers in laboratories in China, are used to carry out a lot of these gain of function experiments. And it's not just mice that they're carrying out these experiments on, or bats, as we were told in the beginning of COVID. They're using dogs, and they're using cats, and they're using monkeys, and all types of animals, really. But primarily, one of the most popular forms of animal species that is used in a lot of these animal experiments are beagles. And you learned on this program when I had Justin Goodman on the show that beagles are chosen as, like this perfect specimen to be tested on in laboratories by these mad scientists because they're docile in nature. And scientists have found that beagles are like the least resistant, and they're not going to be aggressive compared to other breeds. And so essentially these mad scientists have ruled out the fact that if you want to abuse an animal, the best animal to abuse is a beagle because they're not going to bite back, and they're going to, just allow you to do whatever you want to them. And we've seen a lot of these really horrific experiments that have been uncovered and exposed by white coat waste, including the fact that the NIH, which is now led by Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, his headquarters office is out of Bethesda, Maryland, actually had an on-campus beagle lab that was still receiving funding and was set to be importing 24 beagles to their on-campus lab for these abusive experiments. Well, thanks to our reporting, thanks to the reporting by White Coat Waste and the reporting here on Loomer Unleashed that went viral, it actually led to an announcement on Fox News this last Sunday by Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and we talked about this on Tuesday's episode of Loomer Unleashed, that they were shutting down and closing the Beagle Lab on the NIH campus site. Well, there are still a lot of these abusive animal experiments happening in labs all across the country, right? And so a lot of people were gaslit into thinking that, wow, the Trump administration is ending all beagle testing. False, right? We are still actually funding a lot of these abusive animal experiments in laboratories all across the country with our taxpayer money, and also in China. We also reported here on Loomer Unleashed with the exclusive documentation provided by White Coat Waste, these horrific animal experiments that are being done through the DOD, the Department of Defense, under the current Trump administration, where over $10 million has been spent taxpayer money to literally shove marbles and condoms up the rectums of innocent cats to test for erectile dysfunction and electromagnetic shock experiments. Horrific things. I mean, we don't need to be shoving marbles up the anus of any animal, let alone a cat. And I was alerted to the fact that there was going to be an animal rescue this week from some of these beagles across laboratories in our country that have been abused, and now they're going to be able to live a better life after being rescued. And a lot of people wondered, where do these beagles go after they get rescued from the laboratories? Well, in many cases, some of them have been euthanized, but luckily, there's an amazing organization out there called Kindness Ranch, and Kindness Ranch dedicates itself to traveling the country, rescuing these abused lab animals, specifically beagles, and they take them to a ranch that's located in Wyoming, and they find them homes, and they give them a better life so that they don't have to die in a laboratory or be tortured for the rest of their life in a laboratory. And what's amazing about this organization, Kindness Ranch, is that they help find homes for these animals, and it doesn't matter how old the beagle is, they will try to find it a home so that it can live a better life. And we have an exclusive report. We can exclusively report that as of this week and over the next few weeks, Kindness Ranch is going to be saving 100 lab beagles, and they are going to be working with White Coat Waste to urge the Trump administration to retire all animals from NIH-funded laboratories. We're going to be publishing this report tonight on Loomer.com. I wanted to break the news first here live on air, but I'll read a little bit of this report. On May 4th, 2025, the Trump administration's National Institutes of Health shut down the last beagle experimentation lab inside its Maryland headquarters following a 9-year campaign led by the watchdog group White Coat Waste. And thank you to Elon Musk for investigating this, because right after he replied to my tweet and said that he was going to investigate, they announced that they were shutting it down. Now we can exclusively report tonight that more beagles have been rescued from cruel government testing. White Coat Waste and the Kindness Ranch Animal Sanctuary have offered to partner with the Trump administration to relocate animals from taxpayer-funded labs, and they have rescued 100 beagles from abusive testing labs. So joining me now to discuss this and to also release live on air these never-before-seen videos and photos from this beagle rescue, this heroic beagle rescue this week, by John Raymer of Kindness Ranch is John Raymer himself, the executive director of Kindness Ranch. So, John, thank you so much for taking time to join me, and thank you for your heroic actions this week. I know we've been communicating all week long. You were going to come on earlier in the week, but I thought that it would be better to end the week with, the total amount of the dogs that you have rescued this week, since every day this week you've been involved in traveling the country rescuing these animals. So thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on and letting us share our victories this week and for the upcoming weeks. We're really excited to go out and get even more dogs.
Absolutely. We have not published these videos yet, and we have not published the photos. So this is going to be the first time anybody has seen this. But what can you tell us about this mission that you have engaged in this week through your organization, Kindness Ranch, to save from this report that we're now releasing? It was going to be 70 beagles, but it's my understanding that you rescued even more beagles today. So now the number is 100 beagles that you have saved this week.
Yes, by the first week of June, we will have placed at least 101 beagles into different organizations that we partner with to find homes, ranging from actually Canada to California to North Carolina, all over the place, because although we have a facility in Wyoming, it's really difficult to house that many beagles in a single facility and successfully place them into homes. Kindness Ranch was founded in 2007 by Dr. Grubman after he heard about animal testing and vivisection, and worked very quietly for years and years to just retire animals from laboratory testing facilities, predominantly surrounding Wyoming. There's a lot of animal testing that goes on in Colorado. And
which is really ironic, given the fact that Colorado is like hippy-dippyville, right? Like Colorado is really ground zero. And I know you're an animal organization, so we don't need to have a big political conversation here, but it is kind of funny given the fact that all of the, the anti-Trump campaigns out of Colorado to try to strip Donald Trump from being on the ballot this last election season came out of Colorado. And so it's ironic given the fact that, Trump's really the only president that's taking a stand against animal testing and animal cruelty. And Colorado is where all these liberal organizations and these like tree hugger organizations are based out of. And yet it's one of the states where they're carrying out some of the most abusive and horrific experiments on animals. So I just wanted to get that little jab in, because just more hypocrisy, in my opinion, from these organizations. But continue.
Well, we have gotten literally thousands of animals out of animal testing in Colorado. And the flip side of that, which is the happy ending part, is we've also placed thousands of dogs and cats into private homes in Colorado. So it is kind of a full circle thing. But given the last couple of years with the in Vigo breeding facility being shut down and 4,000 beagles needing placed, and now with the recent spotlight on the NIH facility closing, Kindness Ranch kind of felt that it was time that we not just quietly stand in the background anymore. And we're proud of the work that we've done with Justin and White Coat Waste over the last couple of years. We're proud of the advocacy that we've done in DC, and we threw our support behind Nancy Mace recently for introducing Violet's Law to make mandatory retirement a thing. And we hope that our local representative, Lummis, will also support it as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get that article pulled up on the screen, because Nancy Mace, of course, has been very outspoken, a representative from South Carolina. She's been speaking out against the Monkey Island, where they're torturing a lot of animals, a lot of monkeys in these abusive experiments. But also, she's a big dog lover. We've had Nancy Mace on the program before. I love her heart that she has for animals, and she's been a big advocate of white coat waste and was very vocal against Fauci for these cruel experiments when white coat waste exposed to the world. The fact that Fauci was releasing fruit flies and other types of insects into these cages and laboratories where they were eating beagles alive, and they were just watching these beagles suffer and struggle without any pain management whatsoever. And so let's get the article back on the screen, because I want to go through it so people are familiar with this law. So Rep. Nancy Mace introduces a bill to allow laboratory animals to be retired, adopted. Nancy Mace has reintroduced, and I believe that's you with Nancy Mace, reintroduced Violet's Law, a bill named after a dog saved from a taxpayer-funded experimentation lab by White Coat Waste Project. Wow, they're just like racking up so many W's this week. Maybe they need to change their abbreviation to WWW, because all they do is win. And it requires all federal labs to allow animals to be retired and adopted out when testing ends. The legislation's reintroduction comes after it was supported by a bipartisan group of dozens of co-sponsors, but did not move forward in 2023. There are more than 40,000 regulated animals locked in federal labs each year, according to the medical watchdog and animal rights group. White Coat Waste is the group that blew the lid off the National Institute's health funding of gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, and exposed longtime NIH physician Anthony Fauci for, let's scroll up, abusing his authority, science, and taxpayers when he was the head of the NIH. Any thoughts? I know we saw this week President Trump, in addition to Nancy Mace proposing this legislation, we also saw President Trump hold a press conference in the Oval Office to ban gain-of-function funding. Any thoughts on that as somebody who travels the country rescuing animals in these laboratories where they're doing a lot of gain-of-function research?
I have a lot of personal feelings about that. I'm proud of President Trump and the steps that he's taking for it. On a professional level, Kindness Ranch, we focus only on what happens when the dogs get out of research and when the animals get out. We don't publicly advocate against it, but we can all agree that beagles and cats are bipartisan, and that as humans, we should be treating them better. We should be better stewards, and we should absolutely not be torturing animals. And like I said before, with the recent spotlight on this, now is the time to act, as the public is becoming more aware of the millions upon millions of dollars being spent that is by design being spent in very secretive ways behind closed doors with these people harming these animals. There's no need to be euthanizing all of these animals for medical experiments that very, very rarely, if ever, transfer to humans.
Absolutely. Before we go ahead and play these video clips for you and the viewers tonight of these very heroic rescue operations that you carried out this week, if you can tell us in detail kind of what your week was like, because you were very busy this week rescuing all these beagles. If you can just kind of paint the picture and paint the scene for the viewers about how this process goes down and how you were able to get inside these laboratories to rescue all these dogs, and just kind of start to finish from the moment you wake up to the end of the day, what it's like in the day of rescuing these tortured animals from these laboratories.
Well, I spend the majority of my day sending out about 200 emails to testing facilities all over the country, trying to introduce myself, what we offer to these testing facilities with the confidential retirement of the animals when they're no longer used. and then wait for responses. And I would say 99% of the time my emails are ignored. And then we get the sudden influx like we have in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, especially again with the public awareness of the NIH facility and what's going on there. A lot of these research facilities now have chosen to get out ahead of the negative press on what they're doing. And my email box was just blowing up with people wanting to release animals that are no longer being used. One of these facilities we've worked with for quite some time, and they're in the process of phasing out almost all of their animal testing and will be closing in the next couple of years. That facility was in Colorado, and then we got the phone call from a facility in Houston, Texas, which is where I'm at right now. And then we'll be going back to Colorado to pick up even more dogs. All of the dogs that we've released this last week were used in flea and tick and topical medication research, which can sound non-invasive, but as we develop longer-term treatments for flea and ticks, they have to be injected with these new chemicals and then exposed to massive amounts of fleas and ticks. And a lot of discomfort can be involved in that. But some of these dogs have been in long-term studies where they've been what's called recycled, which means that they stay in contract facilities for their entire lives and are exposed to multiple different forms of research. And 2 of the dogs that we got this week were both 11 years old, and they were born in a research facility and lived their entire lives, had never been outside before.
That's so awful. I mean, how do you even rehabilitate a dog like that? I mean, the amount of anxiety and stress that a dog who is 11 years old, who's never been able to go outside. I mean, how do you even begin to rehabilitate an animal like that?
That's my amazing crew at Kindness Ranch. We have dedicated caretakers that actually live and care with these dogs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they expose them to everything from a TV for the first time, the smell of coffee being made in the morning, to the joy of being able to use a dog door and go in and out as they please. A bittersweet story with one of the 11-year-old dogs that we just got out. This boy went outside for the very first time in his life and found the steps going down into the yard and had never used steps before, and actually fell down one step and just laid there traumatized from what had just happened. You could tell that he'd never experienced anything like that before. And when he stood up and realized that he was okay and was touching grass and dirt for the very first time, got the zoomies and ran around for the next 5 minutes acting like an 8-week-old puppy for a little bit. It's so heartwarming when we see how quickly some of these dogs can bounce back from a life of trauma.
And we have that never before seen clip here that you provided to us. So we're going to go ahead and play that clip now.
You made it up the steps. You made it up the steps, right on. You're outside. What do you think about this? You're outside for the first time.
That's so sweet. So you said you're in Texas right now, but the ranch is located in Wyoming, and we're going to show some more clips of some of these dogs that you rescued this week. So how do you transport them, and do they stay with you like when you're at the hotel, or do they go straight back to Wyoming? It must be a really big, heavy duty operation, because I imagine that you're driving these dogs, or maybe you're flying them. Perhaps you can explain how your operation works in case there's people, watching who want to donate to support what you do, or perhaps, they have vehicles or modes of transportation to assist you in transporting these animals.
Well, thank you. I wish that we were a big operation. My wife and I usually do most of the transports ourselves in a Dodge van, and we drive constantly. My wife is an absolute machine. She's in the van right now driving back to our little town in Wyoming with her daughter, Jess, with the 26 dogs. They're going to drive straight through and arrive tomorrow morning. I'm hoping to be able to fly in and meet them there early. It's an insane endeavor that the transport, the care, it's absolutely overwhelming at times. And when we look at the calendar moving forward and all of the miles we're going to log in our van going from Texas to our little town of just 64 people in Hartville, Wyoming, to Los Angeles, and then we'll be headed down to the Gulf Coast in a couple of weeks to get even more dogs. If we had the funding, we would happily buy another van and hire another transport person so my wife could actually spend some time at home.
Well,
but that's just the dedication.
What does that cost? I mean, what are we talking about financially? Like, how much money would it be to buy one of these vans? And I'm just trying to understand like how this all works, because you're saying she's transporting 26 of these dogs back, and you're saying it's going to be straight through. How many times does your wife and it's two people in the van have to stop to let these dogs out to go to the bathroom? Because I have 4 dogs, and I know that whenever I drive my dogs, it's like, every 2 hours I'm stopping because I have little dogs, and they have like little tiny bladders. So unless I want pee all over my car. That's a lot of dogs, like for 2 people to be letting out to use the bathroom and whatnot. So what is that like if you're driving across the country in one straight shot, having to let all these dogs out to go to the bathroom? And where do you stop?
We have found that, strangely enough, Love's truck stops have amazing little dog parks for us to stop at, and we'll let each dog out. We stop roughly about every 4 hours. We're also a USDA regulated facility, so we have to have an exercise plan in place for these dogs that we abide by. And so we stop about every 4 hours at Love's truck stops and fill up the van, go to the dog park, let the dogs stretch their legs a little bit. Some of the dogs, since they've never been outside before and they don't like humans, are a little too severe of a flight risk. So we can't let them out. So we let them run around and pee in the back of the van and then go after them. The cost of our vans, for our Dodge ProMaster 3500 van, we paid about $70,000 for that, and then another $10,000 for the air conditioning and customization of it. And to transport 26 dogs, house them for a month, do spays, neuters, dentals, and get them ready for adoption, on average, for about that number of dogs, we're looking at between $25,000 to $35,000 a month just for that simple base level of care that you have to look at. And then
how many of these dogs are you rescuing every single year, just so we can understand like what the financial toll on this organization is?
We're averaging about 550 dogs a year right now.
Wow. What is your overall budget in terms of, what it takes to run this operation to save all these dogs, these 550 beagles, and help find homes for them?
Last year, we do a lot with a very small budget. One of the benefits of being in Wyoming is the cost of living is fairly low. We rehomed around 700 dogs and cats last year with an operating budget of $2.3 million.
Wow. And it's mostly grassroots donations, or how do you raise your money?
It's 100% private donations with a small number of foundations and bequests thrown in.
Wow. Well, I want to help you out, and I want to create a GiveSendGo account, and I'm going to create a GiveSendGo for you, and I'm going to use my platform and my Twitter account to help you guys buy a new van. And I want to create a GiveSendGo with a goal of $80,000 so that we can try to help you and your wife get your dream of getting another another van so that you can help rescue more of these dogs. So that's what I want to do for you because, I have a lot of followers and a lot of generous followers and supporters who believe in animal rescue, and they've been very touched by the work of White Coat Waste. And I'm very touched by, the work that you're doing to rescue these animals. And as somebody who has 4 dogs myself, 3 of them are rescues. Animal rescue is very near and dear to my heart. And, I'd like to believe that the Trump administration is going to do good by these animals, and that President Trump just hasn't been made aware of the extent of all of these laboratories and animal testing, but that deep down, he has a very kind heart and believes in ending animal cruelty. And, I'm very focused on trying to, deliver this message to the Trump administration so that we can try to, get these cruel laboratories and the funding for these experiments shut down because, I just think it needs to end. So that's my commitment to you. And I'm going to, do what I can over these next few weeks to try to help you hit your goals so that you guys can get a new van.
That is absolutely incredible and so unexpected. Thank you so much. It's when people with a platform like yours become aware of something like this and jump in to help it really makes the world a better place. And I greatly appreciate that and you for doing this.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I want to thank you for what you're doing. I want to play some more of these clips and show some more of these videos because we have even more photos of these dogs that you rescued this week just so people can see the process. So I'm just going to go ahead and start showing some of these back to back. Here's some of the photos. We'll show the photos first, some of the dogs. Wow.
The most amazing part of that transformation is they went from being so scared and shut down in the crates when we first loaded them up to less than 24 hours later, smiling and experiencing sunlight outside. It's so bittersweet to see them become the happy, functioning, balanced dogs that they were intended to be.
How does the process work? I find it to be so incredible. How do you get these laboratories to agree to allow you to come and take these dogs when they would otherwise be euthanized?
It is quite the process. And sometimes it goes from just the caretakers that they hire. The scientists aren't the ones that are caring for the dogs while they're confined. The research facility that houses them has to hire caretakers to make sure that the dogs are fed and watered, and they actually have veterinarians on staff. And just through social awareness campaigns and sharing our social media posts, some of these caretakers learn of what we do, and then they approach the lab owners or the people funding the research and ask that the animals be released. This one facility here in Houston, they had no idea that a facility such as ours even existed until I literally showed up and knocked on their door. And when they answered the door and let me in and I told them who I was, they were so caught off guard that they just let this big animal rights advocate into their facility. But they listened to me. They heard the services that we offer at no cost to them. And I was just informed today that they are now a full no-kill animal testing facility, and that every animal that can be safely sent to us will be moving forward. And 3 years ago, they didn't know that we even existed. And now they're trying to make the turn to be more ethical in the work that's being done, which animal retirement is a great stepping stone, but federally funded animal torture does need to stop.
Absolutely, it needs to stop. And I think that a lot of Americans were horrified when I had Justin Goodman on my show to learn that their taxpayer money was going towards funding these horrific experiments, which is why I decided to have him on my show on tax day. April 15th, because I think it kind of like hits differently when you realize that after you just sent this big check or payment to the IRS, that they're literally using your money for taxpayer funded animal torture. So when you go and you try to find these labs, how do you find these labs? Are you given tips by whistleblowers who reach out to you, animal rights activists? Do you have to like call around? Because I imagine that a lot of these labs are also private labs and they probably have, no signage. It's probably really hidden and you have to really, investigate their location. So what's the process of you finding these labs? Just to get people to agree, because I'm sure that you said a lot of these labs don't even know you exist. So what's the process like of finding a lab, identifying a lab, and convincing them to let you inside to take these dogs?
Well, I'll preface that with saying that the groups that we choose to work with, like White Coat Waste, we're very, very selective. Rights groups are a little bit more extreme and want to shame the individual without the understanding that what these research facilities are doing, albeit I don't consider it truly moral, it's not illegal. And in most cases, it's actually very highly encouraged by federal agencies such as the NIH, the FDA, and sometimes even the EPA. So I take a more subtle approach, and I'll look on employment websites like Indeed and look for animal caretaker jobs and actually find contact information that way. The USDA has a searchable database of the animal research that they've approved and have records of. And you can actually find some NIH facilities through USDA searches on their website. Working with organizations like White Coat Waste and information that they get from their FOIA requests, they can sometimes share contact information that they've been made privy to. And I'll just reach out with an email introduction and hopefully somebody will respond. Most of the time they don't. But once I get in working well with a lab and they see that we're confidential, they see that we protect the publicly sensitive information. A lot of the stuff that they're doing is intellectual property. It's private by design. And of course they want to protect that. And we offer that protection for them in exchange for the animals coming out alive instead of euthanized. So it's a sensitive behind the scenes endeavor that over the years we've been successful in getting word of mouth through the research facilities that we work with, that we're a trusted organization.
That's really incredible work. And so how many laboratories would you say that you now partner with every single year on a continued basis that are still engaged in animal testing, but have agreed to not kill or euthanize these dogs and instead turn them over to you? If you can release that information, how many labs would you say you partner with?
Right now, we partner with just 11. I'm in communication with a little over 20.
And you say 550, your goal is to rescue 550 per year. How many of those dogs would you say end up dying? I mean, you rescue 550, but how many dogs within these research facilities of the 550, because there's more than 550, I imagine, have died before you can rescue them, so that people can kind of have an understanding of how many of these dogs are actually being killed in these shelters?
We get out less than 1% of all dogs being tested on nationwide.
Wow, that's so sad. That is so sad. How many beagles would you say per year are bred specifically by these government-funded breeders for the sake of being tested on? And I know that we discussed before I had you on the show tonight, and I talked about this with Justin. They specifically want beagles, and these research documents and the FOIA requests that Justin has obtained at White Coat Waste show that they actually mention they choose beagles because they're docile and they're not going to be aggressive and bite back or fight and resist the animal abuse like a lot of other breeds would. And they're not as strong as some of these other breeds that are very muscular and would put up a fight or not to be very good research specimens. I just think that we need to get the numbers to put this into perspective for the average person listening to this when they think of the $20 billion each year that's going towards these animal torture experiments. How many beagles would you say, maybe you have the numbers, maybe you don't, are being bred every single year for the purpose of animal testing?
It's my understanding that last year at the end of 2024, there was a little over 42,000 beagles bred specifically for animal testing. And if you remember back,
how many of them die each year? Or how many of them are killed of the 42,000? How many of those beagles die each year?
It's near impossible to tell because there's no disclosure policies nationwide. So when states enact a mandatory retirement plan without a disclosure policy attached to it, there's no tracking of how many dogs actually make it out of research facilities alive. So the labs are left to be accountable to themselves without saying what happens to all of these dogs. If they euthanize a dog, that has to be logged in their records, of course. But then when the veterinary board looks at that as opposed to the USDA, none of that stuff is shared publicly, which again goes back to the very secretive, almost cloak and dagger nature of animal testing. So, in hopes, as soon as animal retirement from research is mandatory or policy nationwide, we'll be able to track how many dogs actually make it out alive. Because right now, there's no way of knowing.
Totally out of control. I understand that you are also going to be having a gala coming up soon, too, where people can buy tickets and they can attend your gala and they can, support the work that you're doing. What can you tell us about this gala and this event in case people watching want to attend or they want to donate? Because I think that the work that you're doing is very important, and more people need to be supporting this type of work.
Well, thank you. October 18th, we're having a gala event in Denver. We've rented a wonderful facility. We have some phenomenal guest speakers arriving. We have Justin Goodman and Anthony Bellotti from White Coat Waste coming that will be talking at the event. We have the director of Frost Fund in California coming out, the executive director of the Beagle Alliance in Canada coming out. Our canine behaviorists will be there also speaking. Live music from Sid Reese, who is a finalist on The Voice. It's going to be a great, great event. Ticket. Wonderful people. I highly recommend showing up. It's our first ever real gala event and attempt at speaking publicly, which I'm not all that good at, but I'm going to give it a shot.
I want to come to that gala. I think that'd be a good event to attend, and would love to support that. So I know we had that up on the screen right there. That's on your website. So if people want to buy tickets or they just want to make a donation, they go to kindnessranch.org, kindnessranch.org.
Yes, kindnessranch.org. We also have pictures of all of our adoptable animals and an adoption application. We have wonderful facilities in Wyoming that you can come, everything from a primitive campground to guest yurts, which aren't the canvas type yurts. They're very beautiful, well-built, stick-built yurts. We even have a large manor that can easily sleep 10 people if you want to come out with a group retreat and spend a week and volunteer and just hang out with some of the animals and see what we do.
Wow, so you can actually go and stay on the property and volunteer and basically go glamping.
Exactly, yeah. And if you wanted to take a beagle back to your yurt or your tent at night, you can.
Really? So you can sleep with the dog and then you can basically teach the dog what it's like to have cuddles and be snuggled at night by an owner.
Yeah, you can be part of the rehabilitation process.
Man, that sounds like my dream vacation, although I feel like that'd be really dangerous. I'd probably leave with more dogs. And I want more dogs.
Well, we were lucky enough that we now have 16 Starlink installations throughout the property, so we have good enough internet you could come out and stream from there if you wanted to.
Wow, that's amazing. So you use Starlink. That'd be really nice if Elon Musk were to somehow find out about your need for another van. And who knows, who knows? Maybe Elon Musk would help buy another van. You never know. I mean, I'm going to tweet this out. Sometimes he sees my content. I mean, look, he's the richest man in the world, so you never know. It would be nice, right? It would be nice. There's a lot of really rich people.
I wouldn't turn it down for sure.
Knows? But you are a facility that is utilizing Elon's Starlink. So Starlink is being used to help save these beagles. That's very nice to know.
But we're almost off the grid out where we're at. We don't have landline phones. We have no cell phone signal. So we had to use something. And when Starlink became available, I was an early adopter for sure. And now it's all over our 1,200 acre property out there.
And so you're the owner of this 1,200 acre property, or your organization is the owner, and you live on the ranch, and then you just take care of these animals and live with them 24/7?
I'm not the owner, the organization is. And yeah, we have a staff of about 20 people that live on the property full time, caring for all of our animals. We have everything from the dogs and cats to cows, pigs, horses, goats, sheep, llamas. It's a real ranch, but the only difference is that all of our animals are from research facilities.
Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. I mean, you don't have to say if you don't want to, but who owns the land? That's pretty nice that they allow for, this massive sanctuary so that people can just, hang out with animals and rescue them. I mean, that's a lot of property. That's really nice. You don't have to say if you don't want to. I just think that pretty heroic. It's pretty heroic in my opinion.
When Dr. Grubman had the vision for the sanctuary, it was purpose bought and built by his own money to found the sanctuary in 2007.
Wow.
And he's been nice enough to come. He comes and visits, and he's still involved, but it's pretty much self-sustaining at this point, and just getting bigger. And hopefully in the next 10 to 12 years, there won't be animal testing anymore, and we can all just vacation out there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully animal testing ends, but that's really amazing. I didn't know that you could actually camp out with the dogs there and volunteer for a week. I want to go to Wyoming and check it out. I'm going to have to come down to the ranch. So if people want to adopt one of these beagles, because I see people in the comments right now, let's go to the chat, because I know that we have a few people that are asking questions. People are interested in this. Let's see. Anybody want a dog? Now's your time. If you want to rescue a dog, put it in the chat. I know that there's a few people who have told me in the chat before that they want to get a dog. I'm always talking about my rescues, so everybody's laughing at me in the chat right now. They're like, "Oh no, Laura's going to get a 5th dog." So I'm always talking about how I have so many dogs. If people watching, listening, or when we clip this episode and we put it out, want to adopt one of these dogs, what's the process for if they want to, adopt from Kindness Ranch? Do they need to physically go to Wyoming to get these dogs, or do you arrange for transport? How does it work?
We highly encourage people to come out and spend a night or two. These dogs are so special, and their pasts will be carried with them. So it usually works out best when people come out, spend a night or two, and take a dog back to their yurt with them when they're on the property, and spend the night with a dog that they're interested in to make sure that it's a good fit. And like you, if you have a lot of dogs, you can bring your dogs with you and introduce a new dog to the pack while you're there and make sure that it's a good fit, instead of going through the adoption process and transporting a dog, say, to Seattle and it not working out and then having to bring the dog back. For well-vetted adopters, we have the adoption application. We'll do a video site visit and make sure that you have a secure fenced-in yard for the dog, and that you have, preferably a dog door, and you just meet some basic qualifications. And we can assist in in helping arrange transport, but transport is usually arranged by the adopters. We work on a very tight budget, so we don't have all of that at our disposal. A second van would definitely help with that.
Well, we're going to be creating a Give, Send, Go, and hopefully we can help you raise $80,000. Are you sure that's the number? Because I don't want you to lowball me. We want to try to get the real number here. What does it really cost? Like, that seems kind of low, $80,000. What's the real number?
The real number is closer to about 140. After we have to have AC put in, we have to have floor drains put in, we have to have all of the tie downs and a special floor. It can add up pretty quick, but we're about 140,000 into the van that we have now.
Wow, 140,000. That's amazing. And where do you get these vans? Where do you get these vans from?
We buy them from a Dodge dealership in Denver.
Oh.
That's just what we've worked with. We're open to other brands.
I knew you were like being like too modest and cheap about it. I was like, there's no way that a van like that is only $80,000. So now I got the real number out of you, 140,000.
Well, we buy base models and slowly add to them as we can. So that's what I'm used to.
But obviously, if you're going to be transporting that many dogs, that's not going to, be the cost of a regular van. So that sounds more reasonable, honestly, than $80,000, 140. So I just wanted to know because, we have a lot of really generous supporters here. When the Furry Friends Animal Rescue in Florida was destroyed, we were able to raise $50,000 for them. That's where I adopted one of my dogs, rescued one of my dogs who's blind. When the tornado destroyed the animal shelter, and my supporters are just so incredible, and they sprung into action, and within a week we were able to raise $50,000. So I think that we'll be able to, hopefully, I'm hoping we'll be able to raise the full $140,000, because that would be pretty amazing to be able to help you guys get another van so that you can rescue more of these dogs that are being tortured. That's the least we could do. I mean, given the fact that our taxpayer money against our own will is being used to finance all this animal torture.
It's unfortunate that you unknowingly pay for it with your taxes, and then a nonprofit has to be formed and solicit more money from taxpayers to clean up the mess that they unknowingly paid for to start with. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Any last comments? Any last thoughts? I am hopeful that in the next few weeks, hopefully, we'll see statements from maybe the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. I don't know, maybe more statements from NIH about these continued animal abuse experiments on taxpayer dime. Look, it's great that they're shutting down the on-campus lab for the beagles at NIH, but I was told that they also have a primate lab on campus. So what about all these other animal testing labs at NIH headquarters, or these other animal experimentation laboratories that are being funded by our taxpayer money? Hopefully we see some more action on this, because look, regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter, we talk about, political affiliation so much here, but there's so many people on both sides of the aisle that are just totally neutralized when it comes to animals. I find that animals are the great uniter. And I think we can all agree, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of our religion. I mean, maybe there's some religions that, aren't so nice to dogs. We don't have to talk about that, though. But, you'd like to think that regardless of people's background and their race and their creed and their religion and their political affiliation, that we can all at least agree that torturing animals is wrong, and it's unethical, and it's immoral, and it should definitely not be funded by our taxpayer dollars. So I'm certainly going to be using my platform to highlight these issues more, because I think that animal testing in this day and age with AI and all this advancement in technology, like I'm not justifying it at any stage, but I guess it was somewhat understandable. I mean, decades and decades and decades ago. I'm not justifying it, but all these excuses that they make, like, oh, we needed it for medical advancements, right? Like, maybe you could give these people the benefit of the doubt, but now that the science has proven that there really are there's really no scientific evidence that suggests that doing these tests on mice or dogs or cats translates into the same, science for human beings. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it, especially when these AI models, with the advancement of technology, can produce better results or better predictions for how a human being is going to react to something as opposed to torturing an animal in a laboratory. So I think that now that our science and technology has definitely evolved and it's more advanced, the most advanced it's ever been, there really should be absolutely like zero tolerance, in my opinion, for any animal testing at all.
When you break it down to as Justin says at White Coat Waste, stop the money, stop the madness. The financial incentivization of breeding dogs and selling them to research is so institutionalized, and it's such a comfort zone on so many levels for these facilities. The FDA very plainly says that they are more comfortable reading the results that they're provided from animal testing than they are from AI. So we have to move the money from these facilities paying an average of $3,000 per dog to test on them, to put that money into AI. If you're working with an AI model and you make a mistake, no living creature has to die. If you're testing on a dog and you make a mistake, that dog is dead and you have to go buy another one and put that one at risk as well. So it's just this horrible, horrible, vicious cycle that, with just shifting the money and making AI more financially viable and more broadly accepted, we can put an end to this in the next few years. We have the technology that we could put an end to most of it now, but there's no financial gain for these companies. When you think of the 42,000 dogs last year that were bred for research at an average cost of $3,000 per dog, why would you shut down? It doesn't cost that much to breed dogs. That's huge potential for a profit margin right there. And getting all of that money out of it and making the shift to AI is just a no-brainer. We can do better as human beings and be better stewards of our environment just by ending this needless torture on animals.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Any last comments? Any last thoughts? I think we played all these videos, and we are going to be posting these videos on Loomer Unleashed. We have a couple more videos, actually. Let's go ahead and play the rest of these videos, and then, they'll give you a chance to give your final thoughts. But we have more of these exclusive videos that you took this week while you were rescuing these animals, so let's go ahead and play the rest of them.
This old timer is 11 years old. Spent his entire life in a research facility. Today is this little girl's first day of freedom outside of research. She was born in a lab, lived in a lab, and today it's raining and she gets to experience rain and grass for the very first time. You're home.
I guess that's one way to say welcome home, huh?
I don't understand how they're born in a lab and they live in a lab and they never touch grass. Like, how do they allow these dogs to use the bathroom? Are they just letting these animals live in their own filth and piss and shit? Like, how does that work? Because don't they take these dogs outside to use the bathroom? Like, it's crazy to me that they don't have a facility where these dogs can use the bathroom.
A lot of the facilities that we work with, the dogs live in basically the equivalent of a human prison cell, just with a drain in the floor and pine shavings, and the caretakers just go in and clean it up. A lot of the dogs are inherently a clean creature, and a lot of the dogs develop a habit of actually eating their own feces to keep their living area clean. And that's one of the things that we have to overcome and work with regularly with a lot of the dogs that we get out. It's a really unfortunate side effect of confinement for these guys.
Do they eat their feces?
Yeah. Not the happy note that I'm sure you wanted to end on, but it's an unfortunate reality for a lot of these dogs. They just want their living area to be clean.
So is it hard to I mean, I'm dealing with potty training right now. Is it hard? Like, a lot of these dogs are seniors. You said, how do you potty train a dog like that? Or how do you condition a dog that has been trained to live in a confined space like that? How do you train them to be normalized into, using the bathroom outside or going for walks and not eating their own feces?
Every dog house environment that we have at the sanctuary, each dog has its own dog door. And we've found that over time, and with just mild encouragement, the dogs prefer going outside instead of peeing and pooping in their living area. So once they learn that they have that availability to go in and out as they please and as they need to, they ultimately end up potty training themselves. And then there is an adjustment period when they go to a new adopted home, because it's so overwhelming for them, going from such a desensitized state to being flooded with all of the outside stimuli from traffic and sirens and phones ringing and all of the noises that you and I would take for granted. It's just absolutely overstimulating and overwhelming for them. So there's always going to be this adjustment period when a research animal goes into a home for a first time. So they're not going to be completely potty trained by the time they go into a home, but they have a good head start and they know that the possibility is there. They will look for a place outside of the home to go eventually.
Wow, that's so incredible. It's amazing work that you're doing. There's completely transforming the lives of these innocent animals. So just shows you how abused they are. People just think of, they're tested on, but they don't think of the living conditions and how barbaric it is that they don't even get to go outside to use the bathroom. So they're just trapped in a prison cell and literally held hostage. I didn't even realize that until I learned that from you and Justin. I thought that they at least took the research animals outside to use the bathroom. And so when I found out that they don't even let them go outside to use the bathroom, it's like a whole nother level of torture and abuse when you think of sensory deprivation.
They justify it because, going outside and touching grass and being in dirt introduces variables to research. They have to come from a very controlled environment, and that sterileness is what they command for research animals and how they justify it. All of these places are also regulated through the APHIS Animal Welfare Act and the USDA, and they're supposed to have exercise plans in place. And some of those exercise plans I've seen were concrete basement floors with a little wire pen set up, and the caretaker would just throw a ball into this wire pen, kind of like a crib for a baby, and let the dog basically lay down on the floor for 15 minutes and put it back in a crate and grab the next dog. And that's the extent of the enrichment that some of these dogs have gotten over the years. It's really, really sad, because we know that these dogs can be and should be so much more than just this manipulated test subject.
You see that a lot of these dogs have an extreme turnaround. Like, when you rescue them, do you see that eventually they become very normalized, or do they live with that trauma forever? Because, I've rescued dogs, and it takes a long time. Like, it takes 6 months to a year, in my opinion, for a dog to really kind of develop. And, I rescued the dog that I rescued that was blind, only is now starting to, not flinch when you go to pick him up, or when he hears a loud noise, right? And and the dog didn't want to sleep next to anybody at first, and was kind of uncomfortable, like being cuddled by a human. And now, like, it's taken about 6 months, and now the dog, of course, like, wakes up and wants to cuddle and comes over. But even with dogs that have not been kept in crates and in laboratories for their entire life, I find it hard when you rescue a dog for the dog to socialize until about a year passes after you adopt them and rescue them. So Do you have some happy stories you could share with us with some of these dogs that have been rescued that, have turned their life around or have, completely different lives now?
There's one dog that jumps to mind immediately when you say that. A lot of the dogs will carry trauma with them throughout their lives, and certain things will trigger them. My dog, Uno, who I've taken to Capitol Hill several times now to meet with people and show the success stories, he still has severe barrier reactivity, and he's scared to death to go through new doors for the first time. But the dog that jumps to mind off of your question is a dog named Flash that was given to us from a research facility because he was mentally suffering being confined, and all he would do is run circles in his kennel all day long. And when the caretakers or researchers would pick up the dog to test, he would get really, really squirmy, is the word I was told, and he would start to bite some of the people doing research on him. And usually when a dog bites somebody in a research facility, they're just immediately euthanized because they're considered to pose a risk to the people there. And this facility did the right thing. They reached out to us. And we started to work with Flash for months on end. And we found this amazing adopter that really wanted to work with Flash to overcome all of his trauma. And they worked with a canine behaviorist that partners with us, Chelsea Marino at Command Canine. And Flash is now just the happiest, lovingest. Oh, he's just an amazing couch potato. And I see pictures of him, and he's just relaxed. He's enjoying his new life with his family. He goes out and actually lays in the grass instead of his past life of just running circles on a concrete floor. He's an actual family member now. And when I see these successes, it just inspires me to raise our numbers from 500 dogs a year to 1,000. I just want to keep doing this over and over and over because these dogs deserve better, and the families that bring them in, their lives are forever changed for the better as well by opening up their doors to one of these dogs.
Incredible. It makes you want to tear up. Almost makes me tear up right now just talking about it. So sad, but it's such important work. And I hope that people watching and listening will support your organization and that they will also consider adopting. Any last thoughts, any last comments before I let you go tonight?
With the spotlights that there are on all of the new legislation being introduced, the NIH facility being closed down, DOD, any federally funded research, Kindness Ranch has the partners, the resources, and the ability to take all of these animals, or at least at a bare minimum assist in the placement of them. And we don't ask for much to get this done, but we want to be involved. We want to help, and we can. We've proven that we can. And thank you, Laura, so much for your kindness and using your platform to raise awareness to this. Getting these places shut down is only the tip of the iceberg, and getting all of these animals safe and outside of research facilities is the next logical step.
Absolutely. And we will do whatever we can here at Loomer Unleashed to keep raising awareness about this issue. And I encourage everybody to go to your website, kindnessranch.org, to make a donation or to fill out paperwork to adopt one of these rescued lab beagles. John, where do people go to follow you on social media, or if they want to contact you and they want to get involved and support your work, how can they actually contact you and follow you?
Most of our social media is Facebook and Instagram. That's where all of our adopters have groups that get together and talk about the stuff that they overcome. You can send an email to info@kindnessranch.org to reach out with more generalized questions. And you can find and follow me just at John V. Raymer on all socials.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. We're going to be publishing these videos that you sent us on social media, along with the Give, Send, Go link that I'm going to create. And so hopefully people will help you in your mission of getting another van.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been a privilege to speak with you.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Incredible organization doing amazing work to save the most vulnerable members of our society, innocent animals that are being locked away in laboratories and tortured. Want to go ahead and go to the chat, put your comments and thoughts and questions in the chat. Want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
Again, want to thank Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Learn how you can diversify your portfolio and invest in precious metals. Check them out at kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. They have a phone line at 720-605-3900 where you can call them and speak to a professional at Kirk Elliott Precious Metals and learn all about how you can invest in precious metals, diversify your portfolio, and invest in your financial future and protect your wealth. We've had Dr. Kirk on the program several times. He is very approachable, very informative. I find him to be a very genuine person. So again, we've heard nothing but positive things from the viewers of Loomer Unleashed who have contacted Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. So again, contact them today, 720-605-3900, 720-605-3900, or visit kepm.com/Loomer. Before we close out tonight, God, it's been so crazy. There's so much Loomer derangement syndrome. We're going to have a Loomer derangement syndrome segment on the show going forward because these people in the media, they're just so crazy. Like, they're nonstop attacks. So I guess every single week, I'm just going to pick the most deranged clips and I'm just going to show them to all of you so you can see how crazy some of these people are. We had Jimmy Kimmel last night. Jimmy Kimmel decided to attack me for pointing out the obvious fact that the new Pope, the American Pope, the first American Pope, is anti-Trump, pro-open borders, pro-illegal alien, right? Dug up his old social media. There's an article up on Loomer.com right now that you can read if you're interested, documenting all of the anti-Trump comments and statements made by this new Pope. So if you want to check it out, visit Loomer.com. It's on the front page of the website right now. And you can see all those receipts and screenshots yourself. Oh, there it is. It's the first article on the site. Click on that. Scroll down. Pope Robert Prevost, long history of attacking President Trump and embracing open borders policy. So we have all the screenshots of the tweets. Scroll down. You can see all the screenshots, calling J.D. Vance a liar, saying all types of things about President Trump. All the screenshots there. So I just pointed this out. I just pointed out the fact that he appears to have some pro-open borders Marxist takes and that he's a Trump hater, and Jimmy Kimmel decided to pounce on that. Let's go ahead and play the clip. Loomer derangement syndrome. This is what we call this.
At all. Loony Laura Loomer says Catholics don't have anything good to look forward to, just another Marxist puppet in the Vatican. This guy says the newly selected Pope trashed Trump, trashed Vance, trashed border enforcement, endorsed Dreamer-style illegal immigration, repeatedly praised and honored George Floyd, and endorsed a Democrat senator's call for more gun control, to which Cat Turd 2 said, "This is so bad." And another guy, "I was considering becoming a Catholic, not anymore." What a loss for the faith. Trump just hit the Vatican with an 80% tariff on pointy hats. But this is the new Pope, is Cardinal Robert Provost. He is a native of Chicago. He went to Villanova University, where he majored in poping. They make him pick a name. He chose the name Leo XIV, which is a shame because there have been 13 other Leos. We've never had even one Pope Bob, which would have been pretty great. How have there been so many popes named Leo? Leo doesn't even sound like a pope name. It sounds more like the altar boy who got high and ate all the communion wafers. Leo. So congratulations to him. This is an historic era we are living. We have an American pope and a Russian president. Isn't it incredible? President Trump finally announced that
There's Trump derangement syndrome, and then there's Loomer derangement syndrome. We also have a clip from CNN's Brian Stelter. You know Brian Stelter, one of the biggest purveyors of fake news, biggest Trump haters. And now he seems to have found another fixation, Loomer derangement syndrome. I believe we have several CNN clips. Let's go ahead and get the Brian Stelter clip up. Go ahead and play the clip.
We are following the breaking news. Sources say National Security Advisor Mike Waltz will leave the Trump administration here in the coming days.
Remember, it was just over a month ago that editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, published this piece detailing what happened after Waltz accidentally added him to a Signal group chat discussing plans for airstrikes on Yemen. CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter is here with more on the media's impact on this firestorm. Now, Brian, full disclosure, you know Jeffrey Goldberg. Did he ever tell you exactly how he wound up in the group chat, what his theory is about why Waltz had him in his phone contacts?
He was coy about that and didn't want to talk about his relationship with Waltz in the past. I've checked in with Goldberg again today. He's not commenting on this news about Waltz's expected departure. But The Atlantic is out with a notably sympathetic column about Waltz today, basically saying, look, Trump has an allergy to expertise. He doesn't want to know about national security. And so it makes sense that the national security aid is now in the discard pile. That's the take on the Atlantic website this afternoon. It's also really telling who is celebrating this news today, including Laura Loomer. Who is Loomer? She is a far-right internet activist, online personality with a sordid history of conspiracy theories, and she loves to pick fights online. Loomer is considered so toxic by some Trump aides that they've tried to keep her out of meetings with President Trump in the past. But you might remember about a month ago, Loomer was able to get into the Oval Office and have FaceTime with Trump. And today she is celebrating this report about Waltz and others being out. She's basically saying she's winning scalps. And she's telling our colleague Steve Contorno that there's a vetting crisis, a broader vetting crisis inside the White House. She says that in that Oval Office meeting a month ago, she was going to raise concerns about Mike Waltz directly to Trump, but then Waltz entered the room. And so she is essentially saying that Waltz is one of the many figures who needs to be out of this White House because they're insufficiently loyal to President Trump. She refers to it as a vetting crisis. She's on X today celebrating this news. But the people that she would consider qualified for jobs in the White House, the people who she would consider appropriate to work with Trump, I think that's a very different list than what kind of a normal mainstream America would consider the appropriate people to be in the White House working with President Trump.
And it was the defense secretary who put information on that Signal group chat that by various agency standards you would expect to be classified. But it was really Waltz's position that was undercut at the White House. Talk a little bit about that, Brian.
And Hegseth, of course, has been perhaps the most sycophantic in his praise of President Trump in recent weeks. You know, if you go back and look at that cabinet meeting earlier this week, it was a very competitive situation with these cabinet secretaries and others going over the top in their support of Trump. But Hegseth has been right at the top of that list, working harder than ever in order to earn Trump's, I don't know if respect is the right word, but keep his job as defense secretary. Ultimately, though, Signalgate, as we started to call it about a month ago, it's not going away, right? Just this week, there was an attempt in Congress to hold folks accountable and to follow up on Signalgate. This is not going to go away, even though Mike Waltz is reportedly going to be going away from his role as national security advisor. This is something that continues to haunt this White House. Trump, just a couple days ago to ABC, said the lesson of it is that people shouldn't use Signal. That might be one takeaway. Signal use is widespread, and there are many other lessons that could be taken away from it. We don't know what Hegseth has learned because he's been in denial about the entire ordeal.
It was really interesting, Brian, because just yesterday, Waltz was in a cabinet meeting praising the president. This morning, he had an appearance on Fox News touting this new minerals deal with Ukraine. His response to this controversy seemingly may not have helped his case, right?
Yeah, it's so crazy the way they react. It really is another form of derangement syndrome, in my opinion. But at least they're highlighting the vetting crisis. I mean, that's the subject of tonight's show. White House vetting crisis worsens. I'm not being malicious. I'm just telling the truth. And he says, Laura Loomer is so toxic that even some Trump aides have tried to keep her out. Oh, come on. We all know that it's not about being toxic. It's about being jealous, okay? People are just jealous that they don't have the brain power. Some of them. Some of the people who work for the president are not very bright, okay? Some of them are. Some of them aren't. Just a fact. So, yeah, I guess some people are going to be professionally jealous. I mean, that's what's happening here is people are very professionally jealous that they don't have the intellectual capacity to come up with the information that I come up with. And they lash out. And the way they lash out is by gatekeeping. So, gatekeep at your own expense. Let's play this other clip here from Dana Bash, another Trump hater.
Selling your gun isn't just a transaction. It's the passing of a story, a chapter in your journey. When that time comes, guns.com makes it simple every step of the way. Quickly share your gun's details and photos through our simple online process and get a competitive offer from our team of experts right to your inbox. Once you accept an offer, we even cover the shipping to our warehouse, where we prepare the gun for its next chapter. Guns.com, purveyors of freedom.
Formerly married to Jeremy Bash, who is one of the 51 spies who lied. Okay, so all these people are just total Trump haters. And I say gatekeep at your own expense because who are you really benefiting by gatekeeping? When they say, oh, Laura Loomer is so toxic, Laura Loomer is so toxic, even Trump aides keep her out. Gatekeep at your own expense. You are going to harm our national security. You are going to harm President Trump. You are going to harm our country if you continue to gatekeep information and you prevent Trump loyalists from trying to give the president of the United States information that is going to help him make better decisions, help him protect himself. So, yeah, gatekeep at your own expense, because if the Democrats take over again and they're able to impeach Donald Trump, or, a bad apple slips through the non-existent vetting process, well, yeah, it's going to have a blowback on everybody in the Trump administration, because as we've seen, they're not just going to come after Donald Trump. They're going to attack everybody who works for him, too. They like weaponizing government. So remember that. Next time you want to gatekeep at your own expense. This has nothing to do with anybody being toxic. It's all about professional jealousy, okay? That's fine. I don't care if people want to hate me. That's all right. It's not about me. This is about the country. This is about the mission, helping Donald Trump. We can all put our egos aside and we don't have to be friends. I'm not asking you to hold my hand and sing Kumbaya or come have a sleepover with me. I'm not even asking you to go have lunch with me. But people need to work together to support the president and make sure that he has the best information possible. I don't care if people like me. I really don't care. Go ahead and play this clip from Dana Bash.
CNN breaking news.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Dana Bash in Washington, and we are following breaking news. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is expected to leave his post in the Trump administration as National Security Advisor. It is the first top staff shakeup of President Trump's second term. Of course, Waltz has been in a precarious position with the president after he accidentally added a reporter to a group chat about upcoming military strikes. We're going to get right to this. Here with me now is CNN's Caitlin Collins, alongside CNN's Jeff Zeleny, Dasha Burns of Politico, and Mario Parker of Bloomberg. Caitlin, what are you hearing from your sources?
I mean, this is good since Signalgate happened. Strong standing inside the White House. I mean, I remember this morning someone predicted to me back during the transition before Trump even took office that Mike Waltz would likely be the first one to go. And now he is marking the first major staff departure of President Trump's second term. And really, his job has kind of been in limbo all week. We had heard earlier this week that something was going on with him. Officials insisted to us yesterday that his job was safe. But there was a moment that CNN saw on Tuesday when the president was going to Michigan on his 100 days in office. And Mike Waltz, we noticed, traveled on Marine One with him. But 10 minutes later, you see it in Joint Base Andrews. That's his figure. He does not get on Air Force One. It's only about a 10-minute flight, so it's extremely odd to take the helicopter flight and then not actually go on the trip. I was told he was not supposed to go on the trip. And so people raised questions about what this moment meant. So we've been asking White House officials about it, and essentially just got to a point where he didn't have a lot of confidence, not of the president, not of his senior staff. And he was told, I was told earlier this week, that his time as the National Security Advisor had come to an end and it was time for him to leave. And now we are told that he will be departing, and so will his top deputy.
So the world got to know him through his very, very unfortunate error of adding Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic to Signalgate. But just by way of background, this is an important sort of detail, which is that, first of all, Mike Waltz is a very serious person. He is a former Green Beret. He's a 4-time Bronze Star winner. That all happened, that service, military service, is obviously well before he ran for Congress. As part of his sort of approach to the world, it was much more hawkish historically than anybody around President Trump in the current form. And so my understanding, and I'm curious what you all are hearing, is that never mind Signalgate, it was that very fundamental mistrust of him and skepticism of him and his perspective about the world that was also problematic from the start.
It absolutely was. And I think Signalgate was the reason for his departure, but not really what led up to it. And one of those pictures we just showed, so interesting, of Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff. Despite their Florida roots, many Floridians inside the West Wing, including those two, I'm told that she has not been at odds with him necessarily, but not impressed by his work. He is a hawk. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's been a lot of flexibility among some advisors. Marco Rubio also comes to mind. I mean, long before he joined this administration, he too would have been in the hawkish side of the Republican Party, but this is the Trump era. So Walz definitely did not necessarily fit this, but he was qualified in, many other ways. And a lot of Republicans who I talked to at the transition were actually happy he was in the West Wing because they thought that he would sort of bring stability and things. But back to that point that Caitlin showed, that video is so fascinating. What it doesn't show, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is on the plane. And he flew to Michigan with the president. And I'm told the president throughout the day embraced the Defense Secretary. Yesterday at the cabinet meeting, it was so clear. So when you sort of step back at this, why Walz, not Hegseth? Because, as Caitlin said, he invited Jeffrey Goldberg into the chat, and that was sort of seen as the original sin.
And can I just say that was captured by our photographers who were excellent, Jay McMichael and Christine Lean, who were there and spotted this and noticed that he didn't get on. Obviously, they are just as good as reporters as we are. Mike Waltz has been fighting for his job this week, though, ever since then. He was in the cabinet meeting yesterday. He did Fox and Friends this morning.
Though.
I mean, he has certainly been doing the things that you would do to try to stay inside the administration.
But by the way, why Waltz and not Hegseth? Also, to the point that you were making, Dana, he was not seen as one of us in terms
terms of the MAGA movement. So often on these issues, especially of foreign policy, it was Waltz and Rubio on one side and Vance, Witkoff, and the others on the other side. And we've been reporting for over a month now, ever since Signalgate, that Waltz was on the chopping block, that it was a ticking time bomb. The reason that he wasn't fired immediately after Signalgate was simply because Trump and the White House did not want to give the media a scalp. But this has been a long time coming. And again, Signalgate was more a byproduct rather than a reason for his ouster.
And do you remember the Laura Loomer list?
Yes.
Sure. That she came in, you reported on this, and she had a long list of people, not sure where she got it, but a long list of people on the national security front who were not considered loyalists, but it was obviously much more than that. Mike Waltz was on that list.
Right, absolutely. And to the point of the other panelists, the fact that he was known as a more traditional Republican, hawkish in nature, which is in direct contrast to the Make America Great Again foreign doctrine. But I want to take another step back as well, back to that cabinet meeting yesterday. One of the things that was striking was how many of the cabinet officials subtly gave an endorsement to Hegseth, right? Namely Lee Zeldin yesterday as well, who kind of gave an impassioned defense, talking about the greatest defense in national security head of his recent memory. What that signaled, I think, was that the rest of the West Wing were favoring Hegseth over Waltz. If the president had to make this decision sometime this week, they were casting their votes on which one would be to go.
Can we also talk, I mean, Dana, obviously longtime Capitol Hill reporter, how Speaker Mike Johnson is viewing this? I mean, Trump took several House members to put them in his cabinet, national security advisors, a cabinet level position. None of them are now in it because Matt Gaetz obviously did not go on to be Attorney General. Elise Stefanik had her nomination then pulled, and then Mike Waltz, of course, now is the first major departure. Scaramucci is kind of mocking, you know, just how short his tenure was, saying I think that he had 9 Scaramuccis. But it speaks to the level of this is something the White House wanted to do for a while, but they all wanted to wait until that 100-day period had hit because they didn't want anything to happen too soon.
I'm so glad you brought up.
Sorry, speaking of Laura Loomer, just before we came on, I literally got a text from Laura Loomer saying, Loomered.
4 Patriots is upgrading one of their best-selling offers with the new Patriot Power Generator 2500X, the most powerful solar generator that they have. For a limited time, you can secure your own Patriot Power Generator 2500X at a new, lower price. Now, you get $500 off and a special double free solar panel deal during this July 4th event. You heard that right. You can get not 1, but 2 free 100-watt solar panels with every generator, doubling your power and halving your time for recharging. Each panel is worth $499, and you get 2 absolutely free. But wait, there's more. As a thank you to the men and women who built this country, we're doubling the senior and military discount on this page. That's right. It's the largest senior and military discount we have ever offered because it's people like you, people who protect our freedoms and values for decades, that deserve it the most. But when the fireworks end, we'll put this grand finale of a deal back in the vault, and there is no telling when you'll ever see it again. This limited time solar generator deal expires July 7th at midnight. That's it, if it lasts that long. These generators are so famous for selling out. So once the word gets out about this new rollback price and your 2 free solar panels, we may have to close the page early. There's a reason people go nuts over the Patriot Power Generator 2500X. It's the strongest, most reliable addition to our best-selling solar generator collection. Over 251,000 people rely on 4 Patriot solar generators. Simply put, it's bigger and it's better than ever before. The Patriot Power Generator 2500X can power your computer, cell phone, television, and radio for longer. It can even keep your fridge going until the power gets back. And that's without gas, fumes, or noise. You'll have power to spare with the Patriot Power Generator 2500X in your home.
I mean,
a verb.
A verb.
So
now a verb.
But she's verbing herself?
She's verbing herself.
Okay. Let's go back to the political implications of this because, I mean, there's so many, but just on Capitol Hill. Because remember, it was Mike Waltz who had won his seat by like 1 million points. I mean, give or take a few.
In deep red Florida.
He was very safe. And then the special election was a lot closer than anybody had hoped. Now, to be fair to Mike Waltz, it was, well, I think maybe he could argue it's a good thing because he shows how popular he is, but also Randy Fine, who then actually did win. A lot of Republicans were especially at the White House, were very frustrated about the way that he
Loomered. Yes, they're very triggered by the fact that the term. You know, these clips are from a week ago, and I'm just now seeing these as of this week because there's so many clips because these people are so obsessed with attacking. They have such Loomer derangement syndrome that every day people are like, did you see this clip? And I'm like, wow, you know, I haven't even seen all of the nasty clips. I was busy this morning, you know, doing an investigation into another White House vetting crisis matter. And then I get a phone call. They're like, did you see what Brian Kilmeade just said about you on Fox News? And I had to go look and see what he said too, attacking me, saying that President Trump shouldn't take my advice and that I shouldn't have any credibility as it relates to who is hired. It's like, says the guy that worked with Fox News, a shadow presidential campaign. We got this article. Let's pull it up on the screen here. Show the article headline. Let's get it up on the screen. It's unbelievable. Just the attacks just are so over the top. I mean, I can handle it, of course, but Fox News' Brian Kilmeade gripes that Laura Loomer shouldn't have credibility to pick who serves in the Trump admin. I don't pick anything. I simply provide recommendations because there's no vetting going on. And I'm helping protect the president. So it should say a lot that I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm doing this because I admire President Trump. He's a hero to me. He's a transformative political figure, the best president we've ever had. He's the leader of our country and the Republican Party. And you know, I think the Republican Party is going to crumble and fail in my
Trump country is booming. We're building, hiring, and winning in America because energy tax credits put America first.
Which is who are we and what can we do going forward and how do we survive without an Iranian state sponsor? So what you could end up seeing is a complete reset, strategically speaking, of what we've known for decades.
Asheville took a page out of the military's playbook and built a portable solar generator that can protect you and your family from our aging power grid, a freak storm, or even a dangerous blackout. And right now, they've unlocked one of their best-selling offers. For a limited time, you can gain true power freedom this Independence Day. Because with every powerful solar generator you get, you score 2 solar panels free. That's right, not one, but 2 100-watt solar panels with every generator, doubling your power and cutting your charging time in half. Each panel is worth $499, and most other companies charge for these. But you get 2 absolutely free, plus a bunch of other free goodies too, during this limited time July 4th deal. You can see why folks went crazy over this event last year. But the best part? You can put it all on an easy monthly payment plan, because we think everyone should have access to this potentially life-saving technology. Folks love the Patriot Power Generator 2500X because, to put it simply, it's bigger and better than ever before. It's got more continuous power and more battery life cycles than our older model, while still having the same renewable, rechargeable, fume-free design that people love. Except now, the Patriot Power Generator 2500X can power your computer, your cell phone, television, radio, and more for even longer. And that's without toxic fumes or noise. This will be your critical power source when you need it the most. But that's just the start. Now your generator has 4 times the ability to expand, meaning you can get even more power than before. Click the link below to get 2 solar panels absolutely free on July 4th with your Patriot Power Generator 2500X. But you need to hurry. This deal ends July 7th at midnight. And it can all go on a new, affordable, interest-free payment plan. There's even an additional discount for seniors and military. See if you qualify. Most people do. But hurry. This offer ends July 7th at midnight. Click the link to get your solar generator and 2 free solar panels now.
do you sight your scopes without spending a dime on ammo or even going to the range? It only takes 5 seconds. Sick of wasting money on ammo, targets, or paying range fees? This lightning-fast, cost-effective, and completely private scope zeroing device is taking the market by storm. An ex-U.S. military engineer just blasted a hole in the wallet of the ammo industry, all by creating a device that can zero in any scope in 5 seconds without firing a single round. See, after losing his job, this former engineer couldn't justify spending a fortune on expensive ammo just to sight in his scopes. So he built a smarter, more budget-friendly way to get dead-on accuracy without wasting a single bullet. He and his 3 friends reverse-engineered the most expensive scopes and sighting tools on the market. And after months of development, they finally cracked the code with a powerful green laser technology, 50 times more effective than traditional zeroing tools. They tested their prototype on every platform they could get their hands on, and it dialed in sub-MOA accuracy every single time. Best of all, they saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars because no ammo and targets were necessary. This tool was so effective that even the manufacturer he approached for mass production wanted to buy the rights from him. But he flat out refused, because in that moment he realized this wasn't just another tool. It was something special. It could save everyday shooters thousands of dollars on wasted ammo, and knew that if he sold it to a big company, they'd jack up the price, putting it out of reach for the people who needed it most. He refused to sell out, and instead, he made it his mission to keep it affordable for law enforcement, special ops, the military, and everyday folks just like you. It's called the Bore by MCG Tactical. Now available to the American public, this game-changing tool lets you sight in your boomstick in seconds, safely and even from your own living room. No wasted ammo, no expensive range trips, just dead-eye accuracy. Snap it on, aim the ultra-visible green laser dot, and boom, you're perfectly zeroed. Best of all, you can use this device to zero your scopes anywhere and get it done safely. And today, we're giving away the Bore at a huge discount to get the word out, but you have to hurry. Demand is insanely high, and it's already gone viral for how fast and easy it works, so tap the button below to go directly to our discount page where you'll get all the details. Normally, a high-caliber laser like this one sells for over $200, but today we're keeping our word to keep it affordable for everyday folks like you and me. Right now, you can get one for just $55, and you can save even more if you bundle up and grab one for a friend. With our 60-day warranty, you can put it through the ringer risk-free. How do you sight your scopes without spending a dime on ammo or even going to the range? It only takes 5 seconds. Sick of wasting money on ammo, targets, or paying range fees? This lightning-fast, cost-effective, and completely private scope zeroing device is taking the market by storm. An ex-U.S. military engineer just blasted a hole in the wallet of the ammo industry, all by creating a device that can zero in any scope in 5 seconds without firing a single round. See, after losing his job, this former engineer couldn't justify spending a fortune on expensive ammo just to sight in his scopes. So, he built a smarter, more budget-friendly way to get dead-on accuracy without wasting a single bullet. He and his 3 friends reverse-engineered the most expensive scopes and sighting tools on the market. And after months of development, they finally cracked the code with a powerful green laser technology, 50 times more effective than traditional zeroing tools. They tested their prototype on every platform they could get their hands on, and it dialed in sub-MOA accuracy every single time. Best of all, they saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars because no ammo and targets were necessary. This tool was so effective that even the manufacturer he approached for mass production wanted to buy the rights from him. But he flat out refused, because in that moment he realized this wasn't just another tool, it was something special. It could save everyday shooters thousands of dollars on wasted ammo, and knew that if he sold it to a big company, they'd jack up the price, putting it out of reach for the people who needed it most. He refused to sell out, and instead, he made it his mission to keep it affordable for law enforcement, special ops, the military, and everyday folks just like you. It's called the Bore by MCG Tactical. Now available to the American public, this game-changing tool lets you sight in your boomstick in seconds, safely and even from your own living room. No wasted ammo, no expensive range trips, just dead-eye accuracy. Snap it on, aim the ultra-visible green laser dot, and boom, you're perfectly zeroed. Best of all, you can use this device to zero your scopes anywhere and get it done safely. And today, we're giving away the Bore at a huge discount to get the word out, but you have to hurry. Demand is insanely high, and it's already gone viral for how fast and easy it works, so tap the button below to go directly to our discount page where you'll get all the details. Normally, a high-caliber laser like this one sells for over $200, but today we're keeping our word to keep it affordable for everyday folks like you and me. Right now, you can get one for just $55, and you can save even more if you bundle up and grab one for a friend. With our 60-day warranty, you can put it through the ringer risk-free.
is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems would be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained
Good evening and welcome to episode 127 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We are live right now on Rumble and X, so please be sure that you head on over to rumble.com/Laura Loomer, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Click the follow button. Also, be sure that you have enabled notifications on your phone for Rumble by downloading the Rumble app. That way you never miss an episode of Loomer Unleashed when I go live. Also, be sure that you click the Get Loomered button. That's how you can support the work we do here at Loomer Unleashed for $7 a month or $70 per year. This is a grassroots-funded broadcast and a grassroots-funded publication. You can go to loomered.com, which is my website, where you can get access to all of the exclusive reports where we document the ongoing vetting crisis, and we report on stories that are not going to be reported by the mainstream media. So be sure that you head on over to the website and get all of your daily investigative reports. All right, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Everybody's talking about Iran and Israel and President Trump. And you probably have noticed that there's this big push. It's been going on for about 2 weeks now, where you have these so-called right-wing MAGA influencers, people who pretend that they've been with President Trump since the beginning, people who jumped on the bandwagon. A lot of these people are Kennedy's carnival barkers who, supported Kennedy's campaign for president, in which he was intentionally and deliberately trying to undermine the will of 400 million Americans, depriving them their right to vote for president by pushing for a contingent election. So, unfortunately now we're dealing with the consequences of coalition building. We have a lot of people who were unfortunately brought into the MAGA movement because, Kennedy's campaign essentially extorted Donald Trump. And now we have to deal with and play in the sand with all of these carnival barkers from Kennedy's campaign who have very large social media followings themselves. Some of them have been invited to the White House. Some of them are influencing and working with some of these advisors who work with Kennedy. And not only do a lot of these people harbor a deep-seated resentment towards Donald Trump, because let's be honest, right? They don't actually like Donald Trump. Kennedy doesn't actually like Donald Trump. The Democrats who were welcomed into the coalition, right? This big tent, this really big tent that we were told has to get big. We have to coalition build. We got to win this election, guys. We got to bring Democrats into the party and put them in the cabinet, even though they have opposing views with Donald Trump on foreign policy and so many other issues. We're now dealing with the lethal consequences of letting Democrats into our coalition. And this was really teed off this week by Tulsi Gabbard. And look, I met Tulsi Gabbard. She's fine, friendly in person. But the reality is that she's never really been with Trump as it relates to foreign policy. I mean, she's quoted as calling President Trump Saudi Arabia's bitch. She's quoted as attacking President Trump on his views on Iran. I mean, you could just look at
how Gen X are getting their teenage bodies back. So this is my mom and this is my grandma. I recently posted a picture of the three of us and people were shocked. They are demanding to know your secrets. So what are they? Is it some new trendy diet?
Nope. I love going out to eat too much.
So then what's your go-to workout?
I don't work out.
You have to tell me what you're doing.
This is going to sound kind of funny. I learned it from Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris?
He just does one simple thing every morning, and now I do too.
I have to know what this is.
He made a video about it. Let me show you.
It felt like my entire body was on fire. I remember waking
waking Chuck up and telling him, you need to take me to the hospital. At the time, I had no idea I'd been poisoned by a series of MRIs.
It was scary.
The damage to my brain was severe, and I could barely speak. I lost muscle mass, and I couldn't even get out of the bed. I had an IV in me for 5 months, every day. And through it all, my wonderful husband never left my side. How many books did you read?
17 books.
Look at me now. I'm healthier than I've ever been. Thank you, honey. It's because of you that I know that I'm still here, and a lot of prayer.
So, what did you change?
Well, what Chuck discovered was a game changer for us. And I'll tell you, it's nothing to do with crazy exercises or fad diets, nothing like that. And it's just really simple. Chuck and I do this one thing every day.
Yeah, we do.
And lots of other people are feeling great too.
Within the first 2 weeks, I already feel the difference.
I lost like 20 pounds.
I'm in great shape, and I have the energy to do things like this every single day.
My digestion is fantastic. Bloating is gone, all because I changed one thing.
Everyone's body has a built-in code. This code predicts how your body will age. I call it your aging type. And if you know it, it could help you dramatically improve your health. That's why I created this simple quiz that'll determine which age type fits you best and allow you to finally feel like a younger, healthier version of yourself. It was only after I learned my own age profile that I was able to choose the right diet for my body. In fact, I started feeling better in a matter of days. Answer just 6 simple questions. You won't be asked for your email or for anything else for that matter. We've kept the quiz short, simple, and free. So go ahead and click the link below to find out your aging type and get the crucial tips you need to feel amazing today.
Tulsi Gabbard's tweets on foreign policy and the way that she's been derogatory towards President Trump and his Middle East policy. She also put out this very bizarre video the other day. And my sources tell me that the president was very unhappy about this video. Do we have this video? Let's go ahead and play it. I know that we didn't include it in the show prep, but there was a video that Tulsi Gabbard posted. If you go to Tulsi Gabbard's Twitter account, her personal account, I believe, and you look at her videos, you can see this video that she posted. That's it right there, that 3-minute long video. We'll download that and we'll get it posted. But she posted this very strange video the other day in which she's talking about the dangers of nuclear war. This video was not approved by President Trump. It was not approved by Susie Wiles. It was not approved by anybody in the White House administration. It was not approved by anybody within our national security agencies. And my sources tell me that upon seeing this video, President Trump was very upset and ordered Tulsi Gabbard to come to the Oval Office. And basically she had the riot act read to her over this video. And so, you know, it's a very bizarre video, and you have to ask yourself, like, why is Tulsi Gabbard posting these rogue videos about nuclear holocaust and nuclear war, trying to undermine President Trump and his foreign policy initiatives, speaking before the president, putting out this very dark video? Like, who is she trying to tee off or tip off as it relates to nuclear war? I think it's really interesting how this video came out, and then just a couple days later, Iran's talking about how they're going to nuke Israel, and Israel is launching strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities and talking about how we need to make sure that Iran doesn't have access to a nuclear weapon. But then DNI reports given to the president said that Iran was nowhere near having access to a nuclear weapon. And the president himself has been asked about this. He was asked about why Tulsi Gabbard told him something that's completely not true. I mean, we have the videotape of President Trump himself saying on Air Force One, I don't care about what Tulsi Gabbard says. I don't care about what Tulsi Gabbard says. I think we have this clip. Let's go ahead and play it.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
He said, I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to building a nuclear weapon. So, you know, we share intelligence with Israel. We know this, right? So doesn't anybody find it to be a little bizarre that President Trump thinks that they're building a nuclear weapon? Israel thinks they're building a nuclear weapon. Other intelligence officials in our government who aren't Tulsi Gabbard have told President Trump they're building a nuclear weapon. But Tulsi Gabbard is the one who says they're not building a nuclear weapon. It's a little bizarre. And then she releases this video. Let's go ahead and play this video from the top.
I recently
recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. This attack obliterated the city, killed over 300,000 people, many dying instantly while others died from severe burns, injuries, radiation sickness, and cancer that set in the following months and years. Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Homes, schools, families, all gone in a flash. The survivors, the hibakusha, they carried the pain of extreme burns, radiation sickness, and loss for decades. Survivors of this attack were asked to put in paintings and drawings their own memories and how they felt and what they saw, and those paintings and the suffering that they conveyed, the pain and the sense of loss were almost more powerful than the photos themselves. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction in Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core: people, buildings, life itself. The shockwave would crush structures miles away, killing and maiming countless people. And then comes the fallout. Radioactive poison spreading through the air, water, and soil, condemning survivors to agonizing deaths or lifelong suffering. A nuclear winter could follow, with smoke and ash completely blocking the sun, plunging the world into darkness and cold, killing crops and starving billions. Acid rain would scar the earth, wiping out entire ecosystems. This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Again, she did not have permission to release that video from the Trump administration. I'm told that President Trump was very unhappy about the publication of that video. I'm told that the president's senior advisors and chief of staff were also very unhappy about the broadcast of that video, the publication of that video. And it's no wonder why there's reports out today about how Tulsi Gabbard is being sidelined from participating in briefings in the Situation Room and participating in national security briefings with the president. There's a lot of questions about why there's reports coming out about how Iran was 15 days away from developing a nuclear weapon. We share intelligence with Israel. Donald Trump is saying that Israel was developing a nuclear weapon. The White House press secretary was confirmed today. I think we have that clip as well. We have the clip today of White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt talking about how Iran was very close to creating a nuclear weapon. But Tulsi Gabbard is saying that they weren't. And she's the DNI director. Let's play this clip.
When the president said a few weeks away, did he mean obtaining enough enriched uranium to start building a weapon, or did he mean Iran is a few weeks away from completing the production of a weapon?
I'm glad you asked that, Ouija. It's an important question, and it's one, frankly, the media has been getting wrong. Let's be very clear. Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All they need is a decision from the supreme leader to do that, and it would take a couple of weeks to complete the production of that weapon, which would, of course, pose an existential threat not just to Israel, but to the United States and to the entire world. And that is something that the entire world, including countries like Russia, is in agreement with, that Iran should not and cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's why the president believes that, and he's believed that, again, not just his political career, but frankly, his entire life.
So again, why should Tulsi Gabbard be included in these security briefings if the intelligence that she's giving the president and the intelligence that she's pushing out to the public is not accurate? Doesn't anybody find it bizarre that, you know, the White House is on the same page with President Trump, Caroline Leavitt's on the same page with President Trump, Israel is on the same page with President Trump?
4 Patriots is upgrading one of their best-selling offers with the new Patriot Power Generator 2500X, the most powerful solar generator that they have. For a limited time, you can secure your own